Hey, there we go. It's a Friday morning. It's June 27th, 2025. Welcome live here at Lake Wissota. I'm Pat Kreitlow on this Friday morning, getting set for the weekend. Coming up this first hour of the program, we're going to be talking to Courier Newsroom's Keya Vakil. We'll review some of the national stories of the week, including that mayoral election in New York City. Who's this guy that won that everybody's talking about, that some people really love and some people really don't? We will learn more about Zohran Mamdani coming up. We'll talk about some new polling from Marquette and Quinnipiac about where Wisconsinites and where Americans sit on some of the positions of the day. In our second hour, we'll have our regular weekend review panel of Mark Jacob, Jim Santelle, Jennifer Schulze. We've got a lot of U.S. Supreme Court decisions to talk about. Kristen Lyerly and Emily Cephos will join us at 8 o'clock to talk about putting pressure on Governor Tony Evers to veto the next state budget if it is not at a certain standard of support for schools and health care and child care, things like that. And Mike Clemens will have sports, including how the Bucks drafted in the second round of the NBA draft. All that and much more coming up at 6:06 across the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll see you soon.
Across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06 on this Friday morning, June 27th, 2025. Another beautiful morning to have you here up north, live from Lake Wissota, from wherever you're listening across the Civic Media Radio Network, or listening or watching us on all the other different platforms out there. Thanks for starting your day and wrapping up your week right here. Can you believe the 4th of July is just 1 week away? Got a question for you. Will Greg Bach be surprised at what my sleep specialist told me yesterday? After all, this is the guy who's been hounding me for the past couple of months to start using a CPAP machine. But what did the sleep specialist say that I need to do? We will get Greg's reaction when he comes around for today's history lesson in just under 45 minutes. Got another question for you. Would you like to win some Brewers tickets? It is Free Ticket Friday. You can use the app to text us the keyword, and if your name is drawn in a statewide contest, you will win tickets to a specific Brewers game. And here's the thing, unlike the previous contest, which was just during the 7 a.m. hour, you're going to hear about this through the whole show from now through 9 a.m., so you can be one of the very, very first to use the Civic Media app, text in this keyword, and be eligible for tickets. Now, the 4 tickets are for this Sunday's game against Colorado. So if you don't have plans for Sunday yet, if you can get to American Family Field for a 1:10 game with the Rockies, and you want 4 really good tickets, well, put yourself in the drawing here and text us this keyword, park, P-A-R-K, park, like take me out to the ballpark. It's got to be the first word in the text, or preferably the only word in the text, using the Civic Media app, park, P-A-R-K, and you'll be eligible for tickets to Sunday afternoon's game, Brewers versus the Colorado Rockies. We'll remind you of that throughout the course of the Friday morning here on the Civic Media Radio Network. And there we go. Judy in East Troy, first one on Michael in Tosa, second one in Tom in West Dallas is your bronze medal winner. Everybody else, just keep them coming in. Parker Olson standing by in Madison Studio A2. Were you hearing all those bings just now as they came in?
No.
Okay, good. I couldn't remember. I don't know which ones come in my headphones and which ones came off the computer speaker, and I thought, oh, that would be if you start hearing bing after bing after bing after bing. So
Free Ticket Friday, baby. They're coming in hot.
Yes, they are. Look at that go. So anyway, how are you? You got a weekend plan of Mallards games, I would imagine?
Oh, yeah. I've got game tonight, doubleheader tomorrow, and I am going to sleep from roughly 12 to 12 on Sunday.
Well, that's a perfectly fine plan. Yes. So if people go to a Mallards game, will they be able to see you, what you're doing, or are you like way behind the scenes, or what?
You might spot me if I'm on the first base and third base cameras are on the field.
Yeah.
They're like kind of tucked next to the dugout, so you'd be able to see me there probably.
Okay.
If you happen to look up into the press box, you can probably spot me if I'm on that camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you're thinking about coming down, give me a wave. Maybe I'll be on the video board.
Well, I mean, anybody can wave at you. Can we find a way that, like, a secret sign that if you wave at Parker a certain way and he waves back, take a look at your fingers. Let's do the one, not the ring finger, but the one between the index finger and the ring finger. If you wave that finger at Parker and he waves it back, then you'll know that was kind of like the secret sign. It's like the secret show during the commercial breaks. That's your secret sign, is just give that special wave to Parker.
I'm sure all of my all of my call workers would love that.
You know, all it takes is one. If there's one listener that happens to catch that it's you, or some poor fan is going to go around doing that special wave to like everybody working at the stadium, hoping somebody waves back at them. Please don't do that. God. Please don't do that.
I have a friend that works for the Mallards and would get a real kick out of that, actually.
Okay, well, we'd better not share that then. So, hey, along with texting us the keyword, which again is park, or did I not say that right? Oh, Tony, we might have some listeners from Boston. The word is park.
Park.
So there you go.
Go to the park.
Roger in Stevens Point puts on Facebook, it is National Sunglasses Day. Wear those shades. It's also National Onion Day. Please don't cry. Yeah, I know he's not talking about the funny newspaper here. And Tony's now saying, I want to drive across the state to go to a Mallards game right now.
I will see you tonight, Tony.
Yep. It's just a short drive from Ashland to Madison. But anyway, along with texting us the keyword, you can use that Civic Media app to reach out to us as well. You can also put something in the comment sections on Facebook and YouTube, and our email address is radio@upnorthnewswi.com. Oh, and a voice note too. We've got somebody sent us a voicemail. We're going to play right after the next commercial break here. So we'll look forward to that. Busy day across the Civic Media Radio Network today. A busy day for Up North News as well. Let's see, coming up on Civic Media, the Maggie Dawn Show at 4 o'clock. Jim Santelle will be the guest host. Jim Santelle, the guy that's going to be here later today. But when he's guest hosting with Maggie Dawn at 4:30, he's going to be talking to another former U.S. attorney, John Vaudreuil. So tune in to that for the Maggie Dawn Show. On our program today, we will have, of course, our Week in Review panel, which also includes Mark Jacob and Jennifer Schulze. Jim Santelle will take us through a flurry of U.S. Supreme Court opinions being issued in the final days of the session, some of which really reaffirm how extreme the right-wing justices are taking American law. We'll also talk about how the Trump White House wants those pesky reporters to focus on the big boom boom of the bombs in Iran and not whether the big bombs actually did what they said they were going to do. Coming up a little later this hour, we're joined by Courier Newsroom's Keya Vakil. We're going to find out what's all the hype about the New York City mayor's race and the candidate who won this week's primary, Zohran Mamdani. He is either a refreshing breath of fresh air and authenticity, or he is a clear and present danger to Gotham City, depending on who you talk to. We'll talk about how President Trump's big bloated boondoggle of a budget bill is unpopular with the public as we review new polling numbers from Marquette and from Quinnipiac. And in our 8 o'clock hour, Emily Cephos will join me and Dr. Kristen Lyerly to talk about her new column at Dan Schaefer's website, The Recombobulation Area, which calls on Governor Tony Evers to use all the tools at his disposal to get a good state budget. There's the bully pulpit, there's the veto pen, there's the trust of the people. She and others want Governor Evers to define a standard that supports education, childcare, healthcare, and more, and veto a budget that falls short rather than trying to fix it with partial vetoes. And so that, again, is coming up in our 8 o'clock hour. Over at Up North News, of course, you can sign up for our daily newsletter, upnorthnewswi.com. In the newsletter today includes a link to a website article called Fantastic 4th of July Fireworks Shows Across Wisconsin. It's a very nice rundown of fireworks shows across the state. So again, you can get the link to it in the newsletter or head over to our website and look for it there. On our social media sites, and if you haven't been on social media for Up North News, just search for Up North News WI. Don't forget the WI, and you'll find us that much easier. And Selena Heller, once again, one of her annual duties in the city of Eau Claire is to help be a host for the Blue Angels and others when they come to town to do an air show. And there's going to be an air show in Eau Claire this week. So Selena has been with the Blue Angels. I am roughly 10, 12 miles north of the Chippewa Valley Airport. And so I don't exactly have a front row seat to the air show, but it's not a bad seat. You could just right out my window here, looking to the south, you can just see all these jets, the Blue Angels and others, as they make their passes. They come way up here to turn around and then head back down toward the airport. Yesterday, even as the rain and thunderstorms were moving in, it was super loud, and it was overcast, so you couldn't see the planes. So I thought, well, either the Blue Angels are in town or Iran has figured out a backdoor way to get here, and we are in big trouble. Thankfully, I knew the Blue Angels were in town, so it wasn't going to be that. So,
what are those F-16s?
I don't know. I would assume so, but
Okay.
and they definitely sound different than the F-35s, the newer ones.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Right. Again, which I know folks in Madison are all too familiar with. Alicia putting up on YouTube, U.S. Naval Aviation, the best in the world. Just a little pride there, and she notes FA-18s. So thank you for that. Tony's also very happy that Emily Cephos is coming in, and Alicia notes, "I am so jealous." So yeah, we've got a good slate that's coming up here today, along with that air show, and Selena always has a good time. She did ask if she did say she could maybe hook me up with a ride along on like one of the planes, not the Blue Angels, but like one of the other planes there, and I politely declined. I might be the first media person to decline a media invitation for a ride like that, but there's just no way.
That'd be
It's
so
just,
cool.
for everybody else. For everybody else.
Pat, can you imagine doing a show live from a Blue Angel?
No, I absolutely cannot.
I would pay to see you do that.
I would pay almost anything not to have to. So, we all have. Yep. So Tony says, "That's a video for social. You said no?" Yes. And Alicia said, "Hey, I will take your seat." A lot of other people, great people, worthy people. I don't deserve it. I don't deserve to, have people see this morning's sausage and eggs and hash browns all over the windshield of one of their nice little airplanes here. So, speaking of stuff that I had for breakfast and such, one more note on our website, upnorthnewswi.com. The Sporkies and the Drinkies, the finalists, have been announced for the 2025 Wisconsin State Fair. I don't know if are you familiar with the Sporkies and the Drinkies?
I am not. Please.
It's a contest for the best new, creative, innovative foods, food on a stick and all the other different ways to. Well, here, I could actually call up the thing here and tell you about a couple of the finalists. And anyway, this is a Wisconsin State Fair tradition. So let's see. There is the Blueberry Breakfast Bratwurst from the Milwaukee Brat House. It's a Usinger's blueberry-infused brat inside a flapjack with sweet and smoky house-made bourbon bacon jam. And remember, just yesterday, we were talking about strawberry brats at the Strawberry Festival in Cedarburg, right?
Yeah, and on Todd's show yesterday, he was doing what's worse, brats or burgers.
Oh, okay. Well, so you can try the blueberry breakfast brat. Here's the Hunka Hunka Elvis Donut ice cream sandwich from Badger Bites. It's a Greeby's Bismarck donut stuffed with Fat Elvis ice cream, which is banana ice cream swirled with salty peanut butter ripple and chocolate chips, topped with chocolate and peanut butter sauce, crispy bacon, and powdered sugar.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, there's Mexican street corn pizza. There's a pepperoni pizza brat. There's s'mores churro fries.
Oh.
And more. And then the drinkies, there's the dirty pancake from the Buzzy Badger. It's root beer mixed with vanilla creamer and maple syrup, brown sugar, and popping boba, topped with whipped cream. The straw is lined with mini pancakes. Okay. And then there's the Purple Rain Refresher from the Rock and Roll Beer Garden, a mix of Concord grape juice, tart lemonade, grapefruit soda, topped with edible glitter and Pop Rocks.
Pop Rocks. I haven't had Pop Rocks in a minute. Wow.
I know. So many more to read up on. So head over to upnorthnewswi.com and find out more about the finalists for the Drinkies and the Sporkies for the Wisconsin State Fair. Coming up real soon here. All right, from the heart of America's up north, live from Lake Wissota, thank you for making this the place to spend part of your Friday mornings. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Okay.
Those all sound
interesting.
So much.
Interesting. Yeah.
A little too sweet. Yeah. I think you're right.
Oh my God. So much sugar. Let's see. Who else did I skip here? Let's see. Oh, Tony was building up the hype. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Mornings Pat Kreitlow. Pat comes out to Eye of the Tiger. The crowd goes wild. That's how the show should open. In my dreams. Tony, I hope you texted Greg the results immediately. No, I'm saving it. There's going to be suspense here.
It's better to tell people important news on air. It's much better to do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Can I see the Blue Angels from my hammock? No, because there's trees there. Tony, little known fact, the Old Fashioned won the first drinky. That's how it became the official drink of Wisconsin. Don't look it up. And
I
Alicia,
believe it.
that sounds a little too sweet for me, and I love sweet stuff. Yeah, same. It's a bit much.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are we going here? Oh, we're going with the polling.
You said you wanted the voice note
Yeah, you can play that after a few seconds of the bumper music. Yeah.
All right, cool.
You're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow. So kick back, relax, enjoy, and maybe even engage.
I love it. There's our newest voice note, which you can use the voice note feature on the Civic Media app. Record us a message. It could be a comment. It could be a question. It could be like that. It could be introducing the segment, introduce the show, introduce the segment. Doesn't even have to be me. It
Maybe
can be
even engage.
Maybe even engage. I like that. Maybe put a comment. I don't know. Maybe it could be introducing somebody else. You could introduce Dr. Kristen Lyerly or Mike Clemens or somebody like that. Brittany Merlot, who's getting an early start to the weekend. So hopefully we'll talk to her on Monday, and hopefully she has a nice weekend. Alicia notes that was awesome. And Tony on YouTube, Pat Kreitlow's on Engage. Well, if you want to, if you care to engage, you can use that voice note feature on the Civic Media app. We would love to hear from you. In sports, the Brewers were off yesterday. They begin a 3-game series at home against the Colorado Rockies. So that would be coming up. Oh, look at me. I forgot my start times on here. I forgot to put those in. Today, it's the Colorado Rockies. 7:10 would be the first pitch, which tells me that the pregame is tonight, 6:35 tonight on several Civic Media stations. And the Milwaukee Bucks, in the second round of the NBA draft, they had the 47th overall pick in the second round, and they picked up Bogoljub Markovic from Serbia. Mike Clemens will have more to say about that coming up around 8:30 here on these mornings, powered by Up North News on the Civic Media Radio Network. Let's check out some polling, and I know I've mentioned a few times I'm not a big polling fan when it comes to election time. You know, that horse race stuff. I'd rather get into what do the candidates, stand for, what do they say, and all that. This is more about positions. Both the Marquette Law School poll and Quinnipiac University have done some polling on various issues that are out there. Now, I do know that there's been talk about the 55% of respondents who say they don't want Governor Tony Evers to run for a third term. But again, that's quite split by party. Among Democrats, 83% think he should run for a third term. And frankly, Scott Walker had less Republican support for a third term back in 2018. Now, 2/3 of voters in the survey said marijuana should be made legal in Wisconsin. That support typically has hovered in the mid 60% range. There's also support for a good-sized tax cut in the budget, although I think this is interesting. We usually talk about Wisconsin being divided in half, right and left. What to do with the surplus is your classic, we're divided evenly into thirds. I mean, seriously, like about 1/3 each want to do one of 3 different things. 1/3 want nearly all of it returned through tax cuts. Another 1/3, probably on the Democratic side, wanted very little in tax cuts, put it into schools and roads and things like that. And then about a third of them wanted half and half. So there you go with a $4 billion surplus. Again, there's ways to get a win-win out of this. The Joint Finance Committee is going to be meeting today in a marathon session. And then it sounds like one house, maybe the Assembly, will try to pass the budget on Monday and the Senate on Tuesday, something like that. Why are they suddenly passing it? Why are they suddenly interested? Because of that Supreme Court decision the other day that says Republicans can really micromanage some of the money. They can create a slush fund in the Joint Finance Committee to hide some of the money. So Republicans are now in a hurry, based on that court decision, to pass a budget up to the way that they want it. And then the pressure goes on Governor Evers to either go along with it because there was enough compromise, or to veto the whole thing if he can't fix it with partial vetoes. And, my guess is that if he vetoes the whole thing, Republicans won't start over. They'll say, fine, we just won't have a new budget at all. The old budget will carry over, which I think has some political risks in it, but that's Wisconsin politics for you. There is bipartisan interest in allowing citizens to bring forward ballot questions if you collect enough signatures on petitions. About half the states have that, but Wisconsin is not one of them, where you can have a citizen-led statewide referendum. 2/3 support postpartum Medicaid expansion. Again, 2 out of 3 people support expanding postpartum Medicaid coverage for new moms from 60 days to a full year. Wisconsin is now one of only 2 states that doesn't do that. Nearly 90% of people surveyed by the Marquette poll support banning cell phones in classrooms. I can't believe that we're even still talking about this, but yes, we are. Meanwhile, over in the Quinnipiac poll, there has been a real swing of public opinion when it comes to undocumented immigrants. About 6 months ago, about 55% of voters said they supported giving most undocumented immigrants a pathway to legal status. That has now shot up to nearly 2/3 of voters support giving undocumented immigrants a pathway to legal status, as opposed to just deportation. In other words, Americans have seen what the Trump administration is doing with secret police and raiding on people who have not violated the law at all and who are playing a role in society. And this is what they think of it. Trump's approval numbers are down as a result as well. But here's the one that really gets me the most. Given a list of 9 issues and asked which is the most urgent one facing the country today, the number one issue right now is preserving democracy in the United States. Now, all throughout last year, Democrats tried to say that, and they were constantly told people do not care about democracy. They care about inflation. They care about healthcare. Don't talk about preserving democracy. It's a non-starter. Now, all of a sudden, people are interested in preserving democracy. In other words, we told you so. We told you that this was coming, that this is the clear and present danger that Donald Trump is posing, and continues to prove it every single day. I'm glad Americans are now paying attention and concerned about it. Wish it had been this way last year. Keya Vakil is coming up next from Courier Newsroom. And then don't forget, Nightlight with Pete Schwab tonight. It's Bar Band Friday, starting at 6 p.m. More after the Midwest Farm Report here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Tony, no one told me Trump was bad. Holy crap. I told you.
I misread that as Trump is bald. And I thought, well, he's got to get a better toupee.
That would check. Yeah. Oh, it is a happy Friday when we get back into the routine here, which, of course, on Fridays kicks off with Courier Newsroom's Keya Vakil joining us from Los Angeles. Keya, hello. How are you?
Hello, Pat. I am well,
All right.
and rested and not experiencing a heat wave like the rest of the country.
No, we already had our turn. They're getting it out east, and hopefully, next weekend, when we will not be talking next week because it'll be the 4th of July on Friday, but hopefully everybody has some good weather. What does one do in Los Angeles on the 4th of July? Do you have plans?
I don't know. It tends to be one of those days where a lot of people go to the beach and do irresponsible things. So I don't know that I'll join, but I'll probably just relax and have a good day and maybe barbecue.
All right, so from Los Angeles, let us start in New York City, because
Sure.
as we look at this week's national headlines, I have to admit, and you know me, I like to follow news, but there's
Yeah.
been a lot of news lately, and I just have not paid attention to this New York City mayoral race, the
Sure.
first round of the primary that was this week.
Yep.
So can you tell us about the person who may be the next mayor of New York City?
Yeah, so Zohran Mamdani is a 33-year-old state assemblyman in New York City who just won the Democratic primary for mayor's race, beating Andrew Cuomo, the famously corrupt, famously drummed out as governor after being accused of harassment by more than a dozen women. Tried to do a comeback and ran a thoroughly uninspiring, thoroughly cynical campaign, whereas Zohran, who I am ashamed to say is 2 weeks younger than me, ran a campaign that was honestly, this is going to sound hyperbolic, but the best campaign I've ever seen.
Wow.
And he essentially was outside of like his district, was known to nobody in November. But, he launched, I think in December or January, but, he was the guy who right after the election, he went out on the streets of New York and talked to voters who voted for Donald Trump and asked them why. And in a curious way, not in a condescending way. He went and talked to a lot of voters who voted for Trump and AOC. And, the answer in most cases was affordability, because things are expensive. And that's the case everywhere, not just in New York, but especially in New York. And his campaign focused on one message. It was on making New York a city that people who live there can afford. And I think that resonates with anyone across this country, whether in New York or LA or Wisconsin or Texas or Arkansas. Things have gotten more expensive, whether it's your rent or your food or your health care, your kids' child care, your groceries. And he ran relentlessly focused on that message. He ran on making public buses free. He ran on free childcare. He ran on helping small businesses avoid bureaucratic regulations like halal carts that have to pay $22,000 to get a permit. And then he ran on, like, he is just a happy warrior. And that is not me personally, but like, he is just an overly positive guy who you can tell he also has gotten a ton of praise recently for his campaign videos and his social media presence. And that is well-deserved praise, but it's because he's authentically himself. They put out videos almost every single day for the past 6 months. And you can only do that when you are really yourself and you're not scripted and you're just being a real human. And that really pays off. And you believe him when he talks about the things he believes in. And I don't think that's like, he's obviously, the thing he's getting knocked on is he's a democratic socialist, just like Bernie Sanders, just like AOC. And so you see a lot of, corporate Democrat types or centrist Democrats being terrified of that. But the lesson is not just, go be a socialist. It's also not go be a centrist. It's go actually say things you believe in and stand for something and just campaign on that. Don't be afraid of voters. Don't be afraid of talking to them. Don't hole up and not talk to media. Zohran went everywhere. He talked to everyone. He was asked uncomfortable questions all the time, and he answered them, and he won.
I have mentioned on the program previously that Milwaukee had, I believe, 3 socialist mayors about a century ago, described as sewer socialists, because very practical. What do we need to get done? We need to fix the sewers. They did it. They ran on it. They won. They accomplished things. Now I want to have a little fun with the history books here, because you said something. And I was about to say, this guy sure reminds me of somebody else. When you said happy warrior, was it by design with somebody in mind from history?
It was not.
Happy Warrior was the nickname given to former Vice President and Minnesota Senator Hubert Humphrey, the guy
Ah,
that basically inspired me to go into politics. And even before you said Happy Warrior, I was about to invoke Hubert Humphrey's name because nobody knew him until he decided to hit the streets of Minneapolis and run for mayor. He came out of nowhere, got to be mayor of Minneapolis, and then a national figure, a senator, a vice president. So when you described Mamdani here as a happy warrior and everything that you said about him, I I can see that there can be some big things ahead of him. But first, I do have to ask this question because
mhm.
we think of New York as, blue, and New York City as
Yep.
blue, but does the kind of division that we saw with the centrist Democrats and others, does that open the door for a Republican nominee, whoever that is, to come in and win?
So New York is funny in that it doesn't have a sore loser law, which means if you ran in the primary and lost, you can still run on another party's ticket.
Oh,
So Andrew Cuomo, if he wanted to, he could run on some arbitrary third party ticket. Eric Adams, who's the incumbent mayor, who was famously was under DOJ prosecution that then got dropped by the Trump administration. He's running as an independent. There is a Republican gadfly candidate who runs every 4 years. Um, so yes, it could get kind of weird and messy if Cuomo runs, but he got thoroughly beaten by Mamdani, and you're already seeing some of those hedge fund types say we're going to drop $100 million in and make sure Mamdani doesn't win. I'm a cynic of politics, and even I think it's a huge long shot that that's going to work. And what we're really seeing right now is like, I don't think Mamdani means like socialism is suddenly in. I think
no.
he means you have to just talk. And I think the thing is Democratic based voters are so alienated from their leaders right now and feel so let down by them that they want change. And the people who are promising change, whether they are more moderate or more progressive, are going to win. That's not to say that policy doesn't matter. I absolutely think it does. I think a lot of progressive policies are extremely popular. I think free childcare would poll extraordinarily well in pretty much every state and district in this country. And so I think it's not purely ideology, it's not purely vibes, it's both. And if you can promise to be a change candidate and offer up good policies and be yourself, whether you're slightly more center left or whether you are a democratic socialist, I think you've got an opening next year and this year because people really want change and are disappointed in the elder party members right now.
Yeah, very much. So yes, authenticity. It's rare and it's wonderful
Quite a concept.
when it does show up. Exactly. Let's move down to the mega bill. I guess that's what the New York Times is calling it now, as opposed to the big bloated boondoggle or whatever else you want to call it. But what came out of the House has to go to the Senate, and what is in the Senate right now, we already knew the bill was going to change somehow. But I think few people understand who or what the Senate parliamentarian does. But the bottom line is there are these rules in the Senate. Some are quite arcane, some are useful. And if the parliamentarian says these things have to come out of the bill if you want to skip the filibuster, these things have to come out of the bill. And it's not one or two things, it's some of the centerpieces of the Trump tax plan legislation.
Yeah, and they are like really in the weeds policies on primarily essentially remove there's a certain kind of tax that it's called a provider tax. They were trying to restrict that tax, which would have cost states money for Medicaid and then providers, hospitals money. That got ruled out. They were trying to restrict immigrants access to Medicaid and Medicare. Those got ruled out. They were trying to restrict certain other like tax credits for immigrants. Those got ruled out. There's a whole bunch of other things. And that does not mean versions of that might not end up in the final bill, but the current versions in the bill text were struck down by the parliamentarian. The parliamentarian's kind of like a referee of the Senate who's like, yeah, you can do this. No, you can't do that. And so this is a person who's been in this role, Elizabeth McDonough, for as long as I've been at Courier Newsroom, so 6+ years. And both parties trust her and respect her. It's kind of a weird arcane thing, but she also struck down certain provisions of student loan repayment and student loan Pell Grant changes. There's a whole bunch of immigration things she struck down. So there's just a lot of like what this tells you is this bill is just an absolute mess and was written in a rush, was written by people who don't know what the hell they're doing and who really don't care about Senate rules. And that sounds like the House because that's the House. And, certain senators made some changes and clearly not good ones. So we'll see some changes. They'll still try to cut Medicaid by hundreds of billions of dollars because they apparently love to take healthcare away from people. But that's where we are right now.
It's just funny that these are the same folks who were all over the Affordable Care Act for it being so big and unwieldy, and everything that came through the Biden administration claiming it was big and unwieldy. And yet all of those were so much more tightly written and made sense. And again, that's not to say they were perfect by any stretch, but
Sure.
we've seen this before with in most recent memory, it was during the past efforts to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, and they would slap things together that just did not make sense. So they're very good on the politics at election time, but they're just lousy on the policy when it comes to putting things together, it seems.
Well, yeah, and that's because ultimately, at the end of the day, their only real legislative priorities are tax cuts for corporations and billionaires, and boosted funding for ICE and Border Patrol. Those are the only two things that are proactive changes. The rest are cutting things. It's taking Medicaid away from people. It's taking food benefits away from people. It's putting rural hospitals on the brink of closure. If this sounds like a cartoonish exaggeration, I understand that. I assure you it's not. Like, this bill will devastate rural hospitals, will devastate millions of people on Medicaid. I've been on Medicaid before. A lot of people have spent time on Medicaid. It is a lifeline for people who are in between jobs, who are, are maybe just starting out in their careers. For the working poor, it is for the disabled, for seniors who, my dad was on Medicaid before he passed. Like, it covered his nursing home stay. If you cut Medicaid, you are essentially resigning certain people to disease and possibly death. And that's what this bill does. And they're going to push forward on it. And, they might campaign on lowering costs come election season and pretend like they didn't cut Medicaid, but they're cutting Medicaid.
And then finally, from our sister outlet in New Hampshire, is a story about former Massachusetts Senator Scott Brown. The former Massachusetts senator is running for Senate, right? But in New Hampshire, not in Massachusetts. What?
Correct. So Scott Brown, who famously broke after Ted Kennedy died, won the special election, I believe it was 2009 or 2010, and served a short term before losing to Elizabeth Warren. He's now running in New Hampshire, which, yes, it's close to Massachusetts, but it's a different state. He's carpetbagging. He's doing what Dr. Oz did. He's doing what a whole lot of people do when they are rich and Republican and want power, which is they move to a different state that's easier to win, or they think is easier to win, and try to run for Senate. And so, we'll see if that works. I would hope the voters of New Hampshire recognize that, recognize it for what it is. But, you never know. Sometimes this sort of thing, it works out, unfortunately.
They can always come talk to the voters of Wisconsin about Tim Michels or Eric Hovde. We can talk about people that wanted to come into Wisconsin and go, well, I can't win in California or New York, so I'll try here. It does not always work. Keya Vakil from Courier Newsroom, thank you so much. Have a great start to the weekend.
Thank you. You too.
We will have today's history lesson coming up next. You're up north. My thanks to Tom and Jackson for the text. Good guest, Pat, which is true. Even if Keya weren't my editor and my supervisor, he'd still be a good guest. But, he is handsome and capable. It's been said.
Pat, have I ever told you how great of a host you are?
I am not your supervisor. Shut up.
Good.
Yeah. Look, now he's giving me the new special wave. And thanks to Scott and Shorewood for the text, noting that Elizabeth McDonough has been parliamentarian of the Senate since 2012. So, again, we thank everybody for their text and notes throughout the course of the show. Well, hello.
Good morning.
How are you?
Morning.
I'm well. How are you two doing?
I'm good.
Doing good.
Do you have any update on the quest for a new club?
No.
Okay. No funny stories about checking out something that looked more like a haunted house from Scooby-Doo or anything like that? Okay.
No.
Okay.
He wouldn't enter one of those places. He has high standards.
I'm also a scaredy cat, so
Zoinks.
when the killer shows up to a house, I'm like, hey, we should leave and drive to another state.
How's Maybell this week?
She's good. She's by herself today. Mama had to go to see the mama-in-law, and so she's sitting on the couch watching 101 Dalmatians, and she's every time I leave, she just looks at me like,
Dogskin coats?
why? Why are you leaving? I'm going to stare at you with my big brown eyes.
Aww.
She just looks permanently sad. That's the thing, and I feel like it's my fault.
Aww.
Mm-mm.
That's just her love language. That's all.
Guilt? Yep. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yep. Everybody has their thing.
Favorite kind of love language.
Yeah.
Uh, Ten seconds.
Okay.
Secret show. Hey, congratulations. If you know what TV show this is from, you're old. Welcome to today's history lesson where we salute Captain Kangaroo, Bob Keeshan, who was born this day in 1927, passed away in 2004. And Captain Kangaroo was how I started every morning as a little kid. Aired on CBS for what felt like a million years. Greg Bach is here as part of today's history lesson. Mr. Bach, how are you?
I'm doing well, Pat. How are you this morning?
I'm fine. Did you have Captain Kangaroo growing up yourself, or a different kid show in the morning?
As Mr. Rogers' kid. That was
Mr.
mine.
Rogers?
Yeah, that
Okay.
was my show growing up. I
Okay.
love that show.
I love, and I think we should do more about early TV, the local morning shows. You know, like in Eau Claire, we had Sheriff Bob, although I think his was an afternoon kid show. In the Twin Cities where I grew up, it was Clancy and Willie and Carmen the Nurse. I know there were children's characters on TV in Milwaukee. I'm sure in Green Bay and other places. It'd be fun.
I don't
to do
remember
a wrap up.
I don't remember there being a local one. I did watch Bozo the Clown when I was a kid too, and that was on WGN.
Oh,
we
yeah.
got Channel 9 in the morning.
And now we get to Parker's generation that just gets news.
I had Bob the Builder.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's true. You had cartoons.
Jid Thomas. And the thing is, Parker has like his generation has just too many to name. Like
I know, but
Bob the
That's-
Builder, Thomas the Tank, Blues Clues. Like it just go on and on and on.
A lot
Yeah,
of changes.
But I mean, in terms of a local host, you know, on
Yeah.
your local station, they don't have that the
Oh.
way that they used to.
Yeah.
On this day in 1956 at Master Recorders in Hollywood, Fats Domino sat down at a piano in that studio, did a remake of a Gene Autry tune, and made a little history.
I found my thrill.
And if it's your song originally, if you're Gene Autry and you hear this, you go, yeah, that song's not mine anymore. it's all
But
Fats Domino.
I'll enjoy the check.
But I'll enjoy the check from the royalties. That's exactly it. Yes.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to country singer Lori Morgan. She is 66 years old today. Lori Morgan, 66 today. Right in line with her 6 husbands throughout the course of her life so far. Yeah.
Jesus.
She everybody talks about Tanya Tucker and what a party girl that she was. Give Lori Morgan her due, man. She's no wallflower.
No, it's her. She figured it out.
She was born Loretta Lynn Morgan in Nashville.
That's amazing.
Happy birthday to Gabriella Wilson. You know her as Her.
Wanna believe what you say, but I hate you on most days. You've been testing my faith.
You ever hear, I know you've heard me like during the Grammy Awards and things, and I'll hear some of these winners and I'll go, I should listen to some of these people more, some of these youngins. She's one of them.
Yeah, she's got great.
She puts her. Out great stuff. Her's one of them.
Her puts out good stuff.
Now this one's a little awkward because it was on this day that a guy named Nelly released his debut album, Country Grammar, again on this day in 2000. It is one of the few rap albums to go diamond, selling over 10 million copies. And the thing that's kind of not awkward, but just kind of funny or coincidental, isn't tonight the night that Nelly plays in concert after the Brewers game?
I think so, yeah.
I think so, yes.
Oh!
Chad Holmes mentioned that he's going down to the game tonight, and Chad Holmes isn't going to go to the Nelly concert.
I thought you were playing this just because this is the night of the Nelly concert.
Well, no, it was 25 years ago that he released his debut album. So there you go.
That's really funny.
I know. This is National Bingo Day, National Food Truck Day, Sunglasses Day, PTSD Awareness Day, and specifically for Greg and a few others, Drive Your Corvette to Work Day.
Yes, indeed. Which Corvette? Shall I drive my Friday Corvette, or should I be sassy and drive my Tuesday Corvette?
Right. If you've got a Corvette nowadays, you're not driving it to work. You know, that's your little weekend ride, I guess. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess enough drama here. It's been a while that Greg has been noting my alleged diagnosis of sleep apnea. I took a sleep test.
Yeah.
I had to wait 2 months to get in to see the sleep specialist, and finally did that yesterday.
Okay.
All this time you were thinking I have to get a CPAP machine and get on that thing. I feel like Maury Povich. The results are in. Drum roll, please, Mr. Olson.
Live from Hollywood.
And the diagnosis is, I have sleep apnea and I need to be on a CPAP machine. Thank you very much. It's
it's like Ross or Rachel. Will they? Won't they? Who knew? Oh, they did. Okay.
Oh, wait. Everybody figured it out.
So,
yes.
Did they tell you? Did they give you any information? Are they going to put the order in for you? What's the next steps?
They put the order in, and so I now have to go to a local respiratory business that I've seen advertised forever for like oxygen tanks and things like that. And they do CPAP machines, and they're going to get me fitted and everything else. So I got a prescription for a CPAP machine. And I've been reaching out to friends who have them to say, tell me again that this is going to be a good thing, right?
This is going to be an amazing thing. Okay, first of all, because I know we don't have much time left in this segment. Is it over the face, or is it just nasal pillows? Do you know yet?
She made it sound like it was a mask thing because it was. Right. She said it was pretty bad.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm guaranteeing you right now, if you use it with regularity, now when I say regularity, I mean every day.
Yes.
Every day, you will notice a difference almost immediately. You will be brighter, more awake. The things that happen to you during the day, for me personally, like falling asleep during the day, like just falling asleep, stopped happening the next day.
See, and it is, and I truly mean this, and I want to say this on the air. It is your energy about this and your story that has motivated me. I may not have followed up on it if it weren't for you. So thank you,
my friend. Well, I'm glad. That makes me happy.
All right. Much more ahead in these next 2 hours of these mornings, powered by Up North News on the Civic Media Radio Network. Thank you again.
If Shorty wants to rock to this.
Thank you again for the clean versions, everybody, of putting those tunes on.
Clean versions.
Oh, boy.
She made it sound like, well, it's a mask and it's going to have the hose up here. But I said, do I have to just sleep on my back now all the time? She's like, nope, you can sleep in whatever position you want. You'll get used to it. And like, I don't know.
I just started in the past week or so, I started sleeping on because I only have the nasal pillow, so it's not as a thing, but it's still, I used to sleep on my stomach. I sleep on my side, I got more used to sleeping on my back just because I don't snore. That was one of the reasons why I didn't sleep on my back. But yeah, I think I don't want to, I said guarantee on the air and I was doing that more, but I very much believe that the first night when you use it, if you just make yourself available, you lay down, you put it on and you relax, you fall asleep. The next day you will wake up with a different sense of what being awake is.
That's what I'm hoping. And trust me, I know that's what Sherry is hoping as well. So.
Parker, I cannot, it is so weird it's so weird to be tired like a normal person. You'd be tired now. Like you yawn during the day. Like, oh, I didn't sleep. It's not, I fell asleep 5 times while driving to work the other day. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. So yeah, if you take it seriously, you use it regularly, because the thing is it's not only going to be like good the first night, it's an ongoing therapy that your sleep will get better and better and better, and you'll feel better and better and better. So
I so need that, especially when she showed me the results and it's like, you have 20 breathing interruptions like per hour. I'm like, that's a lot.
Oh, so. I had 99.3 an hour.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, look at me. Because I was, so that's how bad it can get. So I'm glad you're doing something about it. I'm glad that this is the next step. And I'm really looking forward to hearing about how it makes you feel.
Oh, that's great. All right. Well, again, thank you for the encouragement.
Of course.
I needed
it. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm here for you. Honestly, anyone on the Secret Show, if you're going through the same thing, reach out. There it is. Jane says at civicmedia.us, reach out with questions. I'm happy to answer them, or at the very least be your absolute cheerleader. So
I love it. And Tony thinks I'm going to be much less grumpy to Parker almost immediately.
I can only hope, Tony. I can only hope.
Comment deleted. There we go. Okay. No worries.
All right, gentlemen. I'll see you soon.
See you later.
Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Bye.
Bye.
Secret Show. I can still hear you.
I'm in your head, Greg. We had a couple of texts about the Captain Kangaroo, if you wanted to go over those at all, Pat.
Yeah, I was actually just pasting them in right now as banners. Yep.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
And good morning. It is 7:06. Nice to have you here up north on this Friday morning, June 27th, 2025. We've got Parker Olson standing by in Madison Studio A2. Brittany Merlot is getting an early start to the weekend, so I'll simply tell you to continue to monitor your local Civic Media station for your local forecast, which is going to include, by and large, drier conditions for now. But then showers and thunderstorms will return either Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, depending on where you are, and there is a severe threat that comes along with them. So over the weekend, again, pay attention to your local Civic Media station for more details. From the text line here from Jim in Brookfield, thanks for playing the theme for Captain Kangaroo. Boy, does that take me back to happier times. Thanks. Pam at WFHR, OMG, I knew Captain Kangaroo right away. Haven't heard it in years. And also noted that she had Lori Morgan on WFHR several years ago for an interview. And let's see, we've also got, of course, Robin Tigerton. But again, look, I know it's a little awkward as you hear me sometimes like scrolling through things live. It is a function, however, that more people are sending comments in on YouTube and Facebook. So I'm happy about that. I will try to get to these comments a little faster, but I appreciate the buildup in volume. From Rob, good morning from Tigerton. Cloudy and fog and 62 degrees. The Tigerton area picked up 1.3 inches of rain, and we're starting to see ponds in farm fields. Many farmers are having a tough time getting their hay crop off and hoping for a week free of rain to get the crop off, because some don't have their first crop off. Boy, I hope they do. We should be well into second cutting of hay by now. And again, the field right across the street from me is definitely overdue for that. But we're going to need some dry conditions for a little while here. Up here in the Chippewa Valley at the rain gauge in the backyard here on Lake Wissota, 2 3/4 inches of rain since this all got started on Wednesday afternoon. I'm thinking it's a little less down by you, Parker, but a lot more in parts like between, say, Madison and La Crosse.
Well, there is currently water in my basement. So,
well, there you go.
We think what happened was, I don't remember if I said this to you. I think I might have just said it to Brittany after you had left yesterday. We had a tree in our backyard that had to get cut down.
I heard that. Yes.
Yeah. So that filled the gutters in the eavesdrops.
Sure.
And we didn't clean it out. Mm-hmm. So, and our basement tends to get a little water. And we have
our basement flooded for years and years, and it was such a hassle. We finally had a big home project and did something about it. But even now, when it rains as much as it did the past 2 days, we still go down there nervously a couple times a day just to check and hope that we never have to wet vac like that again. Yeah, so during our history lesson last hour, in our last segment, Greg Bach joined us, and we talked about my seeing a sleep specialist yesterday, getting on a CPAP machine. Robin Tigerton says he's been on one since 2019, and it works. So a lot of encouragement there. And I'm not going to lie. I got to my Google machine a few times over the past couple of months and have, just been, trying to make sure that what people are telling me is, true, that this is going to make a real difference. And again, there's exceptions to every rule. There's always going to be one or two people, CPAP machine didn't work for me. It was terrible. But I gotta say, by and large, the consensus is I better get on this thing and sleep a lot better, because again, ever since I got the Apple Watch and it sends the data to my phone, and I look at my phone in the morning and I go, oh, I really should be sleeping better. And I could use that. Hey, would you like to win some free Brewers tickets? Can you go to the Brewers Rockies game on Sunday afternoon? Not you, Parker. No,
I can though.
I know, but just for the listeners, if you would like a chance to win 4 free tickets in a statewide drawing, it's Free Ticket Friday. Here's the key word to text: PARK, P-A-R-K. Or again, for our Boston listeners, PARK. Send that through the Civic Media app. Text it to us, and you will be part of a statewide drawing for 4 free tickets, club level seats. Parker used them this week and can testify that these are quality seats.
These are quality seats. You got a nice little cushion on there, That's what you need. I don't like those hard seats. Gotta get
Oh,
the push.
oh, look
Gotta
at
get
it.
the
He's
push.
joined the old man club with me and Greg.
Yeah.
My tuchus can't handle these hard seats now. I need the cushion. All right. We
Feels
can
good.
take care of that. So there you go. Text the keyword park to us, and that's this keyword. There will be more chances to win throughout the course of the day on this Free Ticket Friday across the Civic Media Radio Network. Hey, next week on the program, on Monday, we're going to have Jeff Mandel from Law Forward. We will talk about the group suing Elon Musk as a way to try to prevent billionaire bribery of voters, or at least the skirting of the rules on bribery. Also, Hans Breitenmoser will join us on Tuesday, so we are really hoping that he gets drier conditions between now and then, and that we can have some good news to pass along from rural Wisconsin. We're also going to talk next week with State Representative Angela Stroud from up in the Ashland-Bayfield Superior region, way up north. And she's going to talk about a bill that she had to vote against, which was supposedly going to address lead water pipe removal in Superior. We always talk about it in the Milwaukee area, but as Earl Ingram and others have told us repeatedly, this is still a problem in many other places across Wisconsin, not just Milwaukee, and Superior is one of them. Unfortunately, the bill that Republicans put forward put a huge chunk of the cost on taxpayers, and essentially the private utility up there was taken off the hook for being responsible for any of the cost of replacing the lead lines. And so Representative Angela Stroud said, she had to vote against that. That's not a fair deal, and that there's still ways to negotiate a fair deal. So we're going to talk to her about that next week when she's on the program. And I regret to inform you that next Thursday's show will feature birthday cake and far too many candles. But it's, it's one of those rites of passage. I saw a cartoon the other day that said, we got to stop calling it years. We got to call it levels, like a video game. Because next week, if I tell people I'm at level 61, I mean, that's going to be like, oh, look at this guy's good.
That does sound better.
Not this guy's old, Here's Tony saying, the real up north. Yes, Ashland is the real up north. When we do that define up north, and some people go with Highway 29 and some people go with Highway 10. A lot of people go with Highway 8, and Tony's one of those that goes with Highway 2. Which is not quite fair.
It's all relative.
Yeah, there's a lot of space there over there. And Alicia says, "Oh, that's right. Your birthday's the day after mine." Well, okay, Alicia, we got a birthday week next week. Consider it a date. A lot to tell you about as far as what you can find across the Civic Media Radio Network and what you can find on Up North News. So let me mention that on the Todd Alba show today, you can catch it from 2 until 4. He has his own Week in Review guest, Peter Rapine from E-Bombs World. We'll be joining him around 3:30. And then Matt Nair on Air today. Dan Schaefer is the guest right after the news at 10 a.m. Meanwhile, over at Up North News, the Blue Angels are in town at the Chippewa Valley Regional Airport for an air show this weekend, and Selena Heller covers them every year, and actually is part of the local support crew, I guess you could call it, there working at the air show. And so Selena will be joining us on Monday morning to talk about all the fun, but you can see some of her photos of the Blue Angels arrival and others getting ready for the air show. Just head over to our social media sites, search for Up North News WI if you haven't been on those at all, or at Up North News on TikTok, where we put videos as well. Also on the website, there are some fantastic 4th of July fireworks shows all across Wisconsin, and we've got a website article and a link in our newsletter linking you to said article to find out more about the fireworks shows that you can find. And we also covered in our last hour as well, but you should know that if you attend the Wisconsin State Fair, you know that they have special awards for some of the newest, most creative foods and drinks. They are the Sporkies and the Drinkies, 2 different types of awards given out at the Wisconsin State Fair, and they have announced the finalists for the Sporkies and the Drinkies so that you have an opportunity to sample them at the Wisconsin State Fair when that gets going in West Allis. We're going to have Mike Clemens on at about 8:30 to wrap up sports throughout the week here. We can tell you that the Milwaukee Bucks in the second round of the NBA draft last night used the 47th overall pick to pick up Bogoljub Markovic from Serbia. And that is the extent of what I know about Bogoljub Markovic from Serbia until Mike Clemens gets here. Unless Parker, you've got some other inside information I'm not aware of.
I'm afraid I don't. However, I do appreciate acknowledging, like, yeah, he didn't play college in the U.S. I don't got a clue.
Yeah, I got nothing. We did not. He was not part of anybody's NCAA brackets. That's just how it works. The Milwaukee Brewers were off yesterday, but they continue their homestand with 3 games against the Colorado Rockies. Starting tonight against the Rockies, the pregame will begin at 6:35 on Civic Media stations in Racine, Kenosha, Park Falls, Hayward, and Richland Center. Head over to the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us, to learn much more. I mentioned in the last hour, and I'll just pass along briefly here, and then we're going to have a local break, and we're going to talk to our Week in Review panel as well. But I do like the way that Dan Schaefer framed the new Marquette poll, because it talked about a lot of different issues. Now, again, it's not election time, so this wasn't any kind of candidate polling or anything like that. It was just about various issues, some that the legislature is considering right now, some things that are before Congress. There are things like, Medicaid expansion for new moms and things like that. And here's how Dan Schaefer put it. In a deeply polarized 50-50 state, which issues do more than 65% of Wisconsin voters agree on? Again, here's the question. In this deeply polarized 50-50 state, which issues do more than 65% of Wisconsin voters agree on? And his answer, it's almost all that are policies that are backed by Democrats, such as Medicaid for new moms. 66% favor legislation that would extend coverage for Medicaid for new moms to a full year after giving birth. There's marijuana legalization. 67% say marijuana should be legalized, including, by the way, 44% of Republicans and 79% of independents. And then there's increased special education funding. 71% of voters say they would favor a major increase in state aid for special education funding for public schools. There's mental health services in schools. 75% of voters favor a proposal to provide comprehensive mental health services in schools statewide. To this point, Republicans in the legislature not only did not go along with Governor Evers' proposed increase, but have proposed decreases in mental health services. Allowing citizen-led ballot initiatives, 77% of voters say Wisconsin should adopt a citizens' initiative to put issues on the ballot. So again, on all of the top issues, when you look just at issues, not candidates, not party labels, anything like that, you see where folks are. It's just a matter of trying to remind them who is on their side on the ballot when it comes to these issues. A local update is next for some of you, and in 15 minutes, when we're all back together, we will continue with our Week in Review panel from the heart of America's Up North, live from Lake Wissota. Thanks for making this the place to spend part of your mornings. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. At first, I was very, very confused. 6'11", 215 pounds.
He's describing you, right?
No, he's not. That's the Serbian guy, So anyway, so here comes Jennifer. Here comes Mark. Here comes James. How are we all doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay.
Got your note, Jennifer. Thank you very much for that. Let's see. See, I say thank you for it, and then, of course, I lost it. Here it is. Okay, now we're good. Good. And, Jim, we're going to expand the show from now until noon, just to get through all these Supreme Court decisions.
Exactly, right. Big day, and biggest day, and then they run away to Rehoboth Beach for the rest of the summer, apparently. So,
right. Okay. All right. And, Mark, how were your travels last week?
Good.
Very good. Good deal. All right. Well, good. Well, we will be back in just under 90 seconds. So I will come get you in just a bit.
Wait.
Up North News has newsletters every day of the week for you. Our Monday through Friday newsletter that Christina Laurie puts together. Like we said, today had a link to the fireworks shows across Wisconsin. She also does a Saturday sports edition, and then on Sundays I put together one that is politics themed. Usually I have it mostly written by now, and then put some finishing touches on it, and it goes out at about 6 a.m. on Sunday morning. However, now that the state Supreme Court has made its ruling on the governor's veto powers, Republicans are now getting going on writing the budget. And so the Joint Finance Committee is going to be meeting today, probably all day, to go through as much of the budget as they can. And then they may pass the budget out of the Assembly and Senate as early as Monday or Tuesday, because Tuesday is when the new fiscal year starts. All that is to say, the Joint Finance Committee will be meeting all day today to work on the budget, which means Pat will be working late, putting it together on Saturday and then sending that newsletter out on Sunday. So if you want to know what Republicans finally propose for a state budget, you want to get subscribed to that Sunday Mornings with Pat Kreitlow newsletter, head to upnorthnewswi.com and click subscribe up top. It takes you to a page with all three newsletters. Sign up for one, two, or all three of them. Let's bring in journalists Mark Jacob and Jennifer Schulze and former U.S. Attorney Jim Santelle as we get going with a little look at the week's news. Only a few little things have happened since we last spoke. Attacks in Iran and 7,000 U.S. Supreme Court decisions and so much more. Panel, good to see you all. And I think, Jim, we're going to have to start with you because there's a lot that the Supreme Court is putting out there because they're at the end of their term. And what say we start with the Medicaid-related one out of South Carolina as it relates to Planned Parenthood. And again, Republicans and conservatives finding ways to get the courts to lock in a very right-wing view of covering health care for women and for all people in this country.
That's exactly right. Yesterday, it's a huge opinion having to do not only with Medicaid, but of course, abortion, reproductive rights generally. You've got a governor there who way back in 2018 said that because abortion is murder and it cannot stand in America of this century, he said that for those people, those entities that are benefiting from Medicaid in this time, that the reality is that we're no longer going to offer Medicaid support and services, and eliminated that. Went up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said yes, that under a provider provision of the Medicaid rules and laws and structures there, that the state can do just that. And again, it basically prohibits now the provision of Medicaid services and funding for patients of Planned Parenthood in South Carolina. The concern, of course, it can very easily move into other states as well because the ruling is plainly nationwide.
Yeah, and I mean, Mark, a point that I made this week is that for a party that loves to talk about we're going to get rid of red tape, when they want to, they can wrap red tape around almost anything to, give you more hoops to jump through if you want Medicaid coverage, or maybe just use the court system to, make sure that Medicaid can't cover you. So, for all the talk about red tape, they know how to use it and not just pretend to cut it.
Well, right. It's really ridiculous that they claim that states' rights is a big thing and that local control is a big thing when we see what's going on. We see, the Marines in Los Angeles. We see, right now they're trying to get the University of Virginia to fire their president supposedly because of DEI. So, just the long hand of the federal government is getting longer and longer every day. And this is not, the old simplistic way of looking at it was that Republicans wanted government out of your life. Well, that's not the case now.
No, they're more than happy to be involved deeply in people's lives and exam rooms and things like that. More big decisions yet to come, Jim. What are you looking to think we might see some today?
Yes, the Chief Justice has told us that this is their last official day. They don't completely go out of business, obviously, but he's announced that there are 6 more opinions, and these are the big ticket items. Not that there haven't been other ones recently that are equally important, but among them is the issue relating to birthright citizenship. That one may well depend a whole lot more on whether or not federal judges can impose nationwide or universal injunctions. Interesting situation there, not only under the 14th Amendment, but more broadly. Other cases out there, there's an Obamacare challenge once again that goes to preventive medicine, whether the task forces that decide whether or not insurance companies are obliged to provide preventive services for, things like cancer screenings and other things that keep us healthier and safer, whether those things can stand, that's huge. There's an issue related to whether parents can insist that their young grade school children not be exposed to LGBT storybooks in public schools. And then there's also a matter involving internet and access to adult sites. Finally, there's also a major decision involving race and gerrymandering and districting that will also redefine, at least somewhat, the interplay between politics and racial decisions when it comes to drawing those lines. Lots of things on the docket, probably all announced in the next couple of hours.
And Jennifer, from the challenge in a newsroom, we always talk about, the Trump theory of just complete chaos, and then you can't cover everything. Newsrooms should already be practiced about this, because every year it seems we go through this with the Supreme Court. You've got to spin a bunch of plates at once.
Jim knows the answer to this better than I do, but 6 decisions on the last day of the session seems unusual. Mm-hmm. And almost all of them are lead story type things. So I think this is going to be a particularly challenging day, not to mention all of the other tons of just Trump related news that's going to be happening. But the 14th Amendment, if they make a decision on that, that's, weeks of news.
Oh my goodness. We'll have so much more to say about that if it comes down that way. Coming up next, we're going to have much more with our panel. And then in our next hour, Dr. Kristen Lyerly and Emily Cephos will talk about pressure on Governor Evers to veto the state budget bill if it does not meet certain standards for education, healthcare, childcare, and more. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Segment always seems so short, and yet it's like the pre-show, it's like the appetizer to get us into the bulk of the conversation. Let's see. And then Jennifer, I think I'm going to start with actually, let's do this. Mark, I think you'll want to come strong out of the gates on Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, that'd be great.
and then after that, we'll get to Trump threatening to sue the New York Times, Jennifer, and then we'll head back towards some of the other court-related matters that come. So, all right, I will be back in just a bit.
Real quick, whoever it is that is typing right now, please make sure not to do that while we're on air, because the mic is picking it up and is going over air.
Oh, that's. They're journalists. This is what we do. We type.
I know.
So, I know.
I'm a producer, Pat.
I like it. It sounds like the old news ticker. The old AP teletype was going clickety, clickety, click. I'm old enough to remember that. All right, I'll be back. Ten seconds. I got a question for you. Would you like to go to the Brewers Rockies game on Sunday afternoon? Would you like a chance to win 4 free tickets as part of a statewide drawing? Well, then get yourself over to the Civic Media app, and before the end of the show at 9 o'clock, use that Civic Media app to text us the word PARK, P-A-R-K, and you will be in the running for 4 tickets for this Sunday afternoon's Brewers Rockies game as part of our Free Ticket Friday here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Up North News is part of Courier Newsroom, and if you head over to couriernewsroom.com, all kinds of news articles, videos, podcasts, newsletters. For example, there is How Is This Better? a new video series with Keya Hughes this week, Erasing Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson broke barriers on the baseball field, but his legacy off the field is under attack. And so Keya explores how the Trump administration is trying to rewrite history in its crusade against diversity, equity, and inclusion, and why it's important to defend history and what those DEI efforts are designed to achieve. Also at Courier Newsroom, you can get the newsletter from Mark Jacob. It's called Stop the Presses. You can also get it at stopthepresses.news. He also has a video series with Stephen Beschloss called On Target. And this week in the video series, it's about pushing back against gaslighting when going to war, which includes refusing to reflexively accept going to war without facts, which Mark takes us to the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who would really like those pesky reporters to just focus on the bombs going boom, not whether the bombs actually did the thing that they said they wanted to do.
Yeah, there's in history, there's a long record of governments lying about war. It's one of the things that is most often that governments lie about. Then you combine that with the Trump regime, which, lies about everything. And it's a really kind of a nasty combination in which you can't trust anything. So you have this, this declaration from Trump that the Iranian nukes were obliterated, which is, within, minutes of the bombing, which there's no way that you'd be able to have that determined. But he said it anyway. And so they're sticking with it. And then you get this report in the New York Times and various other places, Fox News even, that said that the preliminary determination was that it might have set them back a few months, but not, really a long time. And that enraged, Pete Hegseth and Trump. And Hegseth said that they shouldn't report that. Now, this makes no sense to say that this is a preliminary report. You shouldn't talk about this when Trump immediately said that the whole thing was destroyed. So Trump's word is fine. Everyone else's is not. And Hegseth even said that the press ought to be waving the flag. That's what he said.
Of course. And it gets worse, Jennifer, with the president's lawyer threatening to sue CNN over its coverage of the intelligence report. At least the media is pushing back on this one.
And threatening to sue the New York Times also.
Right.
It says, it reminds me of what they're doing to CBS. They're demanding an apology. They're claiming that the coverage is unpatriotic and that the coverage is causing Trump harm. You remember with CBS, the claim is that CBS engaged in some questionable editing of an interview. They didn't, but that doing that caused Trump harm. And so CBS should pay Trump $20 million, which it looks like they might be doing, by the way. Wall Street Journal is reporting that settlement looks like it's moving forward. And now it's the same playbook. His lawyer sent letters to CNN and the New York Times yesterday. I don't know if other news outlets got them as well, but those two news organizations have been out in front on this preliminary assessment that Mark was talking about, and both fired back. The New York Times wrote, no retraction is needed. No apology will be forthcoming. We told the truth to the best of our ability, and we will continue to do so. And that's great. That's what the press should be doing. But let's be very clear about it. Trump is trying to censor actual news and creating a narrative that if you step outside of those boundaries, they're going to come after you. And that is, oh my God, that is frightening. It's really stunning to see it happening day after day.
Well, to want to, again, require patriotic reporting. If only I had a lawyer to talk to about this. Oh, wait, Jim Santelle. Is there some kind of a reason that a lawsuit would go forward for, quote, unpatriotic reporting?
There is none, but as Jennifer and Mark and you have said repeatedly, that doesn't stop lawyers on behalf of this president from going into court. It is one of the joys, if you will, of our society that you can walk into a clerk of court's office and file a complaint that says virtually anything. So you can sue. The question, which is implicit in what you just asked, Mark, and Jennifer and Pat, is, will that stand up? The answer is no. We've got New York Times versus Sullivan, And basically it says that in order to be successful against the media, you've got to have a very high standard. And others recently have tested this. The Supreme Court continues to endorse that theory that you've got to show actual malice. You've got to know about what you're doing and doing it for a very bad purpose. That is appropriate. We have a high standard, an appropriate standard for First Amendment protections in this country. This will go nowhere. But once again, like all these other lawsuits, again, challenging people who are pushing back against this president, the idea is not winning. It's grabbing the headline and saying, look at what has happened. Bad media. It feeds, once again, this notion that the press is the enemy in America. May well be that in 5 months the cases will be dismissed. That will be on page 7. Yeah. But today we are announcing how aggressively we're going after these bad people who are advancing the First Amendment in America.
Yeah, but Jim, it's not necessarily go anywhere in court, but at the same time, when Trump holds these other things against, like CBS, for example, the FCC is holding up a merger that they have planned, and so in effect, it's an extortion scheme, that they have to settle with the government in order to get their business to run. So they end up losing in court, or potentially losing in court, but that doesn't matter.
It absolutely is, and it is a misuse and abuse, once again, of the judicial system to get this inappropriate result. It's, again, to threaten you in the public domain. I am consistently stunned, as the 2 or 3 of you have been also, that folks like CBS and others are seriously saying, we'll pay off this huge amount of money. Let's go to court. You bring this lawsuit, bring it. Let's go to trial next week. And why it is that intelligent lawyers in New York, other places, are not saying that is befuddling to me.
We should note that along with hosting Amicus, a law review for 2 hours on Saturday mornings, we've got an extra 2 hours of Jim Santelle coming up this afternoon, guest hosting the Maggie Dawn Show. And you're going to be joined by a colleague, another former U.S. Attorney, John Vaudreuil.
That's exactly right. We're going to chat about, frankly, an old issue, new again, which is whether or not that 2020 election was stolen. Believe it or not, John is out there advocating against those folks who pursue that, and we're going to have a good conversation with that. And probably also this other amazing story, a fellow named Emile Beauvais inside the Department of Justice, highest levels, who is apparently telling Department of Justice lawyers that they can tell federal judges no, and they can tell them something even more dramatic, which I will not repeat on morning radio. And he is also headed, for what it's worth, to a lifetime appointment on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals on behalf of this president, and frankly, but going to be confirmed by the United States Senate fairly soon. All stunning information we're going to be talking about this afternoon.
A lot to cover here from 4 until 6. Mark, in terms of coverage this week of things, one thing that you've taken note of, and I certainly have as well, is there was so much. I mean, Joe Biden couldn't turn left instead of right and not be accused of cognitive decline. And yet what we've seen this week in terms of the claims about Iran and the crude language the president used at one point this week, I mean, again, there's that standard. If Joe Biden had done any one of these things, it would be, is he okay? And I'm still not seeing any mainstream outlets saying, is this guy okay? Because he's not okay.
No, the guy drops an F-bomb on live video, when he's talking to reporters. It's crazy. And the thing that drives me nuts is that, Obama orders mustard on his, his sandwich, and it's a big deal, or he wears a tan suit. I mean, the standards have changed so much, and it really means that I think it says that all these nitpicky criticisms of Democrats in the past were just that the right wing did not have any high standards for conduct by its politicians. They only wanted to nitpick on the other party because they're letting Trump get away with. He's also incoherent a lot, and he also just flat out lies. He said yesterday that they weren't changing Medicaid at all. He said He said flat out that they were not changing Medicaid at all, which is just a patently a lie. I mean, it couldn't be more of a lie.
Jennifer, when the things that he's getting out there that other outlets are either not are giving him a pass on, but they're also picking up on some things. For example, the phrase big, beautiful bill. which again, he knows marketing, and he knows that if you're saying big, beautiful bill, you're perpetuating it. Now, some of us have taken that in another direction and had a play on words for it, but there are still newsrooms out there that will just simply take whatever is given them, in this case, big, beautiful bill, and run with it. And I get that that's, I mean, what was Joe Biden's? It was Build Back Better, originally. It just feels like reporters need to reclaim, the narrative of just call it the president's legislative agenda, or something like that.
Talking points have become something that reporters seem to not even notice anymore. They hear it, they repeat it. And Trump is a master at it, and he has been now forever. And so there's all these phrases that are now part of journalism discourse and their reporting that I'm just continually stunned. I do not understand the double standard. I do not understand the acceptance of everything Trump. I can only imagine that they're so sucked into this vortex that it all seems normal to them. And so they just talk about it that way. Even the F-bomb thing that Trump did the other day on live television, it was a blip. Had it been the other way around,
oh my goodness,
it'd be huge.
Oh my goodness, the strain from the norms and everything else. I got time for one quick thing. In our last hour, we talked to Keya Vakil, kind of our first exposure to the New York City mayoral race. Mark, you note that the media has been referring to him as a Democratic socialist, and that why that label, but not a different label when it comes to Republicans.
Well, right. I mean, if Mamdani he ran as a Democrat, so they could just call him a Democrat, but they call him a socialist accurately, I think. But they don't call, the Republicans fascists when accurately you could call them that. The thing that I would like to see with this Mamdani thing and everything else is an explanation of what socialism really is. And the fact that many Trump supporters benefit from so-called socialism, which is a lot of what our government is and has been for, at least a half a century. So, well, I mean, it's not, it's a scary word to people who don't understand how government works, but the media ought to explain what socialism actually is.
I could not agree more, because it has been so misused and abused for a generation now, and we're far past time to do that. As we talk with Mark Jacob, Jennifer Schulze, and Jim Santelle. A local update is next for some of you. For the rest of you, a few more minutes with our Week in Review panel, and in our 8 o'clock hour, Kristen Lyerly, Emily Cephos, and Sports with Mike Clemens. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. All right. Yeah, I feel like I've been banging that drum on basically, I mean, we have a great way to explain in Wisconsin from the sewer socialism of, the 1920s and 30s, socialism of, having a public works department instead of depending on a private company to supply everything. So,
well, you have like 40% of the residents of Mike Johnson's congressional district get Medicaid. 40%.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so this whole socialism is the demon. Well, it's the demon that you're But that
using.
40%
won't band together because they're like, okay, you deserve it, but there's 39%, they don't.
Everyone else is a freeloader.
Yes. Oh my God. Oh dear.
I also think socialism doesn't mean what it used to mean. I think democratic socialism, especially for people 35, 40 and under, is not. It's something different.
And in Europe, the Social Democratic Party is right of center.
Right.
Right.
It's it's all words.
We really need to not use socialism as a slur, as it seems like, for example, the Wall Street Journal is doing the last 2 days, and just talk about it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's up to the media to actually educate people about things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and there's not much of that.
No.
Nope. Are you and Vodre going to get into anything else that we haven't hit yet?
Oh, he's actually only going to be with you for about half an hour, 45 minutes or so. But the other thing I'll mention is that because of all these Supreme Court cases, the folks at Civic Media have given me authorization. We're going to do a live show on Saturday about the cases, and then an additional new content on Sunday afternoon from 2 to 4. We're going to pre-record it, but you get a whopping 4 hours of me droning on this weekend about Supreme Court cases. So kind of promoting that as well. So 2 hours live on Saturday, 2 hours more. No call-in, but and we'll see what the next couple of hours bring, as you indicated. I think, as Jennifer and Mark have said.
What are the times on Sunday?
So the times on Sunday are 2 to 4. And it's not live. It's going to be recorded. I'm doing it actually after the Saturday show, but an attempt to try to capture, 65 cases they've issued in the past several months.
And Saturday is 9 to 11,
and Sunday from 2 to 4. Right? Yep. Way too much lawyer talking going on this weekend, right?
Yeah, that's a good. The timing's right for it, though.
Oh yes.
Jim? Is it entirely possible they may not deal with the merits of birthright citizenship?
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen here. They're going to. What Amy Coney Barrett was suggesting is we need a rule on when you apply these national, universal injunctions.
Okay,
and that's probably what they're going to focus on. Yeah.
All right, here we go. Reminder for this hour that if you text us PARK, P-A-R-K, through the Civic Media app, you are in the running for free Brewers tickets for Sunday afternoon's game against the Colorado Rockies at American Family Field. 4 tickets, great tickets, great seats. And to enter, just text PARK through the Civic Media app, and there will be other chances to win with keywords throughout the course of the day here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Let's break a little Civic Media news here, that there will be not just your usual edition of Amicus, a law review with Jim Santelle Saturday morning from 9 to 11, but a special bonus edition on Sunday afternoon, Jim.
That's exactly right. Just because we won't get through everything plainly, whether it's this afternoon or certainly tomorrow. We've got all these major decisions, can barely keep up with it, as we indicated before. And so in addition to the live show, call in from listeners, much encouraged on Saturday. Sunday, we're not going to be taking any callers, but we're going to review those cases we did not get to on Saturday. So exactly right, Pat, 2 hours of content this weekend on Civic Media, 2 to 4 Sunday, Saturday morning, 9 to 11. And no small cases once again. I should also mention again, a major redistricting case is going to change once again how we understand line drawing when it comes to districts in America, whether it's race-based, political-based, and that issue also going to be looming large. And frankly, in a couple hours, we'll talk about it this weekend.
Jim, the other thing we're not going to get into now because we want to keep things, with Mark and Jennifer here, but I do want you to look back, if you haven't already, at my very sound legal reasoning as to why I think the Wisconsin Supreme Court, even in a unanimous decision, I think they may have missed the mark on this ruling that restricts some of Governor Tony Evers' veto powers. And so if folks missed it, I think it was Thursday morning in the 6:35 segment. Go back and listen to that, and you'll hear a guy who never went to law school, but I read the opinion and I know how to use Google. I should have my own edition of Amateur Amicus, is what it should be.
and turn the broadcast into a law school, Pat. There's no reason why the ABA should accredit this very program every single morning, right?
Well, yes, but I do want to ask you in the future about that at some point.
We'll do that.
Because you mentioned redistricting, the court also deciding without comment not to redistrict the congressional maps in Wisconsin. So let's come back to both of those things next week if we can. But Mark, I think it was you that asked Jim a question about birthright citizenship and what the decision might look like today. Was that you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, the question is whether they're going to deal with the merits of birthright citizenship or just deal with the issue of whether a federal court can on the district level, I guess, can nullify or halt a presidential order. So, Jim, what's the deal with that?
And that's exactly right. It appeared from the oral argument that that's where almost all the Supreme Court justices were going. In a perfect world, which I suspect we do not have, a perfect nation, a perfect Supreme Court, perfect world, what they say is, come on, 14th Amendment does in fact apply. It means what it says, so it's what it. But the issue, the larger issue, is whether or not one single federal judge, whether it's in eastern, western Wisconsin, northern Illinois, someplace else around the country, can issue an order and make it applicable to everyone across the country. I think Amy Coney Barrett had it right. They've got to be able to craft some kind of a rule that says, okay, on really big ticket items like things like, am I a citizen in Wisconsin? Am I not a citizen in Illinois? Those kinds of things that capture larger issues, that maybe you can permit federal district court judges, subject to appeal, to issue those kinds of orders. There may be other things, very local in nature, regional in nature, where you say, you can't do that. And indeed, some of the federal judges are doing just that. They're making their judgments applicable only in their particular federal districts, only applicable to the particular plaintiffs who are appearing in front of them. I think that's what they're going to do, but because we're predicting that, that's almost certainly not what will happen this morning. But that's what they should do in a very thicket of a very difficult situation here, legally trying to untangle all this that the president created. The president created this in the end.
And Jennifer, your newest edition of Indistinct Chatter that you can find on Substack is titled Obliterating the Truth. It is welcome news that so many reporters are digging for answers on the Iran bombing and refusing to stick to Trump's script. And it's one of the things I like about your column is, I can throw stones all day long. It's, I'm an old man. It's what I do now. Whereas you're looking for the positives and you're seeing the positive aspects of some of the media doggedness on this story.
Well, it's something that we haven't seen a lot of. And so when we do, it jumps out a lot. And it did this week. I don't know if it's the topic. I don't know if national security reporters have a different sensibility than, say, political reporters. But it seems like the press was a lot more aggressive this week in getting to the facts of things and not falling for a lot of the PR and talking points from Trump. So I'm encouraged by it. I don't know where it goes from here, but Trump's trying really hard to set his narrative, and some in the press are saying, hold up, there's some facts here that don't go along with that. And so I think that's good news.
Are you seeing that as well, Mark, that there's just something about an act of war that has said, okay, this is not a show. We have to use all of our journalism tools and not just the ones that make up infotainment.
Well, I think Jennifer makes a really good point that maybe national security reporters are tougher and have a different standard than political reporters. I've long argued that some of Trump's actions should be covered by the criminal reporters, not the political reporters. Because you get a different spin on it and a different approach. So to some extent, I think they have been tougher on him. And one of the things that was really surprising with the Hegseth thing yesterday is he went after a Fox News reporter, one of the few respected Fox News reporters, Jennifer Griffin.
Well, and that didn't surprise me because, well, first off, it's Pete Hegseth, but that has been the way that they go, is you just attack the media, and if you make them look bad enough. But we've seen that in authoritarian playbooks, from Hungary, Russia onward, and it's just nice to see that folks aren't taking the bait as easily as they used to. Mark Jacob, Jennifer Schulze, Jim Santelle, thank you again so much. I really appreciate it. I'll miss you next week for the 4th of July, but we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Always a pleasure.
See you then.
All right. Happy 4th, everybody. Coming up in our 8 o'clock hour, Kristen Lyerly, Emily Cephos, and Mike Clemens has sports. Remember, you can follow my team all day long at upnorthnewswi.com. We'll be back. There we go. All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Happy 249th birth of the nation, right?
Yeah. I'm not putting money down on 250. I am
right.
Definitely not. All right. Talk to you later.
Oh, thanks again.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Oh, hey, Jim.
Yes.
I do want to pick your brain about that veto thing. I know you've had so much other stuff on your plate.
Absolutely.
But I don't know if you'll have time next week or not, but I'll send you a note and you can let me know.
Delighted to. I teach these classes. We spent an hour on it just yesterday, the Supreme Court decision, and it's all about language, right? And I will
Yeah.
read. I'll consume your item here.
Okay.
But you're probably right on that. So in any event,
all right.
we'll talk more. Thanks,
All right.
Parker. Take
Thanks,
care.
Jim. See you.
And berries are good for you.
There we go. Hi, guys.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Emily, you hearing us okay? Let me try this one. Let's see. Emily, you're in one of these boxes, I hope. I've got two Emily boxes here, but I'm not hearing you on either one. And you might not be hearing us either. And I saw a video with you and Kreger's. It's something about going to, were you basically kidnapping residency graduates or something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Did you see how uncomfortable Craig was in that video? Poor guy. I'm like, we're going to make a video. And he's like, what am I going to say? You'll figure it out.
It was great.
Poor Craig.
It was cute.
It was great.
It was romantical. I liked it. It was very supportive.
Aww.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, his daughter's graduating, so we're going to celebrate.
Hi, Emily. Oh, Emily, we see you. We don't hear you. Oh, that's
Can
a
you hear
very
me
bad
now?
connection. Now I hear
Yeah.
you. Yep. But it's a
Oh my
very
gosh, I
shaky
moved to the center of a
connection.
clearing.
Okay. Oh
I'm
gosh.
so sorry.
That's okay. Well, we'll give it a go with the Wi-Fi, and
Okay.
Maybe go camera offs to help the
oh
audio.
yeah. Maybe take the camera off, and you get more bandwidth that way. So 15 seconds. Stand by.
Okay.
I've got you in the waiting room for a little bit here.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Good morning. It's 8:06 on this Friday morning, June 27th, 2025. Nice to have you here up north. Parker Olson standing by in Madison Studio 2A. Dr. Kristen Lyerly and Emily Cephos standing by to join us as well. And then coming up at the bottom of the hour, Mike Clemens will have sports. The Bucks have made their top pick in the second round of the NBA draft, and the Milwaukee Brewers had the day off yesterday before beginning a series with the Colorado Rockies. I can tell you that tonight's game, you can hear the pregame coverage beginning at 6:35 on several Civic Media stations. So they play tonight. They play tomorrow. Let's see, tomorrow is a mid-afternoon game, 3:10. And then on Sunday, they play the Rockies at 1:10. If you could maybe go to that Sunday afternoon game and would like free tickets, it's Free Ticket Friday. All you got to do is go to the Civic Media app and text us this keyword, PARK, P-A-R-K. Text us PARK before the end of the show, so before 9 o'clock, and you'll be in the running for, again, a statewide contest for these Brewers tickets. There will be other chances to win throughout the course of the day here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Dr. Kristen Lyerly joining us on these Fridays, and I believe Emily Cephos as well. Emily's at a scout camp, if I remember right. So, Kristen, how are you?
I'm good. We're traveling.
You are traveling. That's not your usual accommodations. I almost know the hotel rooms that a doctor takes on the circuit these days. But
This
you're
is a
somewhere
different
else.
one.
Well, good. Thank you for checking in on your travel day. Appreciate it. Emily, I know we got maybe a shaky connection, but if you can hear me, tell me where you're at.
Sure. I'm in Kiel, Wisconsin at Camp Rocolio with kids for scout camp this week. So I'm in a clearing, so I'm hoping this works.
Okay. Well, let's turn it over to you first. That way, if the connection's bad, if we have to let you go, we can. But you put a column in Dan Schaefer's recombobulation area, and it's a pretty easy read about basically setting a standard for the budget. What did you say? It was basically set a line and then hold the line. Tell us what folks can read in that column. Emily? Oh no. It did sound like a kind of a shaky connection there. So
I know. Rural broadband. We need more rural broadband.
Rural broadband now, boys and girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great article, though. Please check it out online if Emily can't join us again, because it is well worth the read, and it really emphasizes the need and the process by which we can actually have a budget if we've got courageous people who are willing to step up.
Well, and what I'll do here, and let's see, Emily, again, if you are, let me try one more time. Are you hearing us, Emily? Oh, I don't think it's going to work. Oh, well, we'll try to get her next week here, because there will be an update on the budget. But here's the headline from the article: "Draw the line and hold it. How Governor Evers and Democrats can step up in state budget negotiations." And, she talks about how the governor's positioned himself as the adult in the room, rightly so. And as much as he likes to compromise, she writes, you can't compromise with a party that isn't negotiating in good faith. Mm-hmm. And now, Kristen, given that the state Supreme Court has, for whatever reason, greatly reduced the way that the governor can use his veto pen, and basically allows Republicans to split up appropriations into multiple bills, and some of the bills the governor can't partially veto. I'm a little concerned now that even though Joint Finance is meeting today, they're going to try to do everything all at once today, try to pass the budget early next week. I think Emily and others are rightly concerned that what they're going to send to the governor is not something that he can fix with partial vetoes.
This is a pattern that we have seen since before the governor was even able to take office. There have been shenanigans for all the years that Governor Evers has been in office, and it's been this constant Republican push to play tricks with our money, with our lives, essentially. And just speaking as a citizen, it's confusing. It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't seem that they have our best interests in mind.
Oh, it never has. And when you look at that new Marquette poll, again, coming back to Dan Schaefer, and you should really subscribe to the Recombobulation Area if you don't, but he looks at that Marquette poll, and in issue after issue after issue after issue, there are these topics that have 65% public support, and they are all the positions of Democrats, of the Democratic Party, of progressive leaders. So we know the people are on the side of Governor Evers going into this. We know Republicans are writing things that are not necessarily what the people want, and are just really daring the governor to veto the budget and make it a public fight rather than actually doing some good in the budget.
Hey, and I love that you mentioned the issues. That's what he's polled on with the Marquette poll. It's the issues. It's not which side are you on. And that's the politics of it that divide us and make us feel like we're in one camp or the other. It's not about that at all. And we've seen Governor Evers approach it from an issues perspective. We've seen him attempt to compromise, but it's got to go both ways. And we have not seen that same kind of approach from the Republicans, unfortunately.
Yeah. Emily writes, the pattern is predictable. Republicans create a crisis, block every solution, and then blame government for the fallout. And so when Democrats respond with silence or softened demands, we don't look principled, we look complicit. And Emily goes on to say about using the bully pulpit to the governor, where's the tour from Bayfield to Kenosha with lawmakers and activists to save childcare counts? Where are the joint press conferences with superintendents, childcare providers, and parents? Why not hold a primetime address and say clearly the Republican legislature is sabotaging your schools, your childcare, and your communities? This is about accountability. People deserve to know who is standing up for them and who is standing in the way. Kristen, Emily has put very succinctly on paper what you and I have been hearing from people throughout the state over the past couple of months.
And some of these little nodes of activism that we're seeing, like child care provider Corinne in New Glarus, who has been, not only does she have a hard job where she's taking care of all of these kids and growing the future of the state, but she's also doing all of the work in Madison. She's organizing, she's raising this issue and helping people understand what's at stake here. And we are seeing regular people all across the state stepping up and doing this work, but it really needs to be our elected leaders. It really needs to be the media. We need more because people really need to understand that our government is not working for us, and we can make it work, but we've got to engage as citizens to make this happen.
One more excerpt in closing. Emily writes, Governor Evers, you were elected to protect Wisconsin families, not to politely coexist with those trying to hurt them. If Republican lawmakers refuse to govern, don't help them hide it. Shine a light, use your voice and your power. If 2025 is truly the year of the kid, don't settle for anything less than they deserve. Draw the line with this budget and hold it. And again, this is a great sentiment, but and I'm just looking here on YouTube. Yeah, Emily is right. Alicia writes on there. But again, here's the wrinkle is that Republicans, if Evers vetoes the budget and says, start over again, they don't have to. They can say, nope, we don't want to. And so the current budget that expires next week would just carry over. And again, that has pluses and minuses, but Kristen, I've been talking to people who have been saying, you know what, for the relative crumbs that might be in a new budget, we may as well stick with the old one rather than go backwards.
Yeah. It's just not worth it. And again, there are examples after examples of Republicans just standing in the way, failing to work in the best interests of the people of Wisconsin. I mean, Pat, you talked about this yesterday. You talk about this all the time. They haven't approved any of Governor Evers' nominations for cabinet people, for appointed positions in all different places, like hundreds of people who we need in these roles to make government work. They just don't want to. They just don't want to do their jobs because they want to be obstructionist. That's not how government works. That's how government doesn't work, and they're not working for us.
No, it's how power works, and these are power plays, and that's why I was so concerned about this state Supreme Court decision this week restricting the veto. Is that Republicans, the way that I interpret it, can basically turn the Joint Finance Committee's quote unquote supplemental fund into a slush fund and put even more money into it and say, we'll decide when we want to dole out the money if we can. So that needs to be reformed. The confirmation process for the governor and the state Senate, that needs to be reformed. The rulemaking process, all the things where Republicans have found a way to kind of rig the rules, and it's blocking all this progress, which becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're the ones that love to say government is broken, government doesn't work. We hear that from people all the time. They voted for Donald Trump because they're like, well, government doesn't work. We got to try something new. We need to do a better job of calling out the people who government would work were it not for them.
Maybe it's just these 3 words. You broke it. Yeah. You broke it. And it's given future legislators a path forward. I think that is something that those of us who are really interested in the future of Wisconsin need to look at all of these places where they have inserted themselves and defied norms and acted outside of the realm of what they have done traditionally and what moves the state forward. And just all of those little fixes are opportunities for us in the future. We just got to get there.
What do we have for the Dr. Kristen Lyerly show on Saturday?
Oh, it's such a good show. Men for Choice. Why should men be involved in the conversation about reproductive rights and abortion? Alan Tipple, who is the Wisconsin youth organizer for Men for Choice. This is an amazing organization that pulls men in and teaches them how to have this conversation, why to have this conversation, empowers them with the knowledge and the ability to move forward. Also, my oldest son, Abe, joins us, and my partner, Craig. So it becomes a very personal discussion, and I think you're going to like it.
I almost hear the Brady Bunch theme in the background here. It's like we got the whole family together talking about these things. So yeah, we've got a lot to cover. And then what time does the show air?
3:00 on Saturday and Sunday, and of course, streaming on the Civic Media Network and wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, podcasts you can get to as well. Hey, that's a great opportunity to promote that we've got this thing, Spotify and Apple and the website.
All of it.
And subscribe to her show, to my show, to all the shows, to all the things. Do that and listen on demand if you can't catch us live. It's why Kristen goes through all this work. When we come back on the other side of the break, some of you will be taking a little local break here, and others will stick around as Kristen and I discuss the US Supreme Court's decision out of South Carolina that allows politicians to essentially cut off Medicaid payments to Planned Parenthood. And what is that going to do to basic health care, not abortion care? Basic health care for everybody, men, women, and children throughout rural Wisconsin, throughout rural America. We'll talk about her trip to Washington, D.C. to mark the 3rd anniversary of the Dobbs decision as well, and whether that's had any kind of an impact on, the total number of abortions that women will need and are seeking and are getting or not getting in this country. That's all ahead here on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Mike Clemens coming up at 8:35. I now want Abe and Craig on every week because you just lit right up. It's like, and also these cool people.
It's such a good discussion, and Alan is just wonderful. I am excited to see. I never know how it's going to turn out because when you're doing it, it's different than listening to it. But when we were having this conversation, when it was over, we were like, we could keep going. So we're actually going to do another episode on young men and their political views and how we have failed to address them, or how we did fail to address them in the past cycle, and what we can do better in future cycles.
Kristen Lyerly is going to fix men because we are broken, especially
Dude,
younger men. Yeah.
I love men.
I know, but we're broken right now. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what broke us, but
Populism.
it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't the things that they've been fed to.
Yeah.
Oh, let's
We get
see.
distracted by the shiny things.
Yes. Oh dear Lord, I can't believe this headline. Eric Hovde is considering a run for governor.
Great. Go for it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, Eric Hovde.
Oh, wait a minute. Here's the full headline. Eric Hovde and Tim Michels considering runs for Wisconsin governor.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, they don't have anybody else. I mean, Tom Tiffany? They're so divided, and
Uh-huh.
and it's just money. They're just looking they need
They
candidates.
just
who have
want money. Right. Oh, just
because they're terrible fundraisers. We know this because people don't believe, like regular people do not believe in the messages that they are selling. So they need rich people to run, and rich people do not represent regular people.
Yep.
It's a vicious cycle for them. I know.
It's
Crazy.
crazy. Oh my goodness. All right, 15 seconds. See, on the text line right now, Jesse from Oak Creek, keep up the great work of letting people know what is really happening in politics, both in the state of Wisconsin and the United States. Robin Tigerton says, thank you, Kristen, for always helping and fighting for us. The Wisconsin Republican Party is a broken party right now. Alicia says, I'll say this until I am blue in the face. Republicans are intentionally sabotaging government. The time for being polite is not now.
Mm-hmm.
In lighter news from the Republican Party, this headline from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Tim Michels and Eric Hovde are each considering a return to politics with a run for Wisconsin governor, to which many Wisconsin Democrats respond with, do it, do it, do it, do it.
Yeah, everybody, do it. Both of them. Yes. Let's
Yeah.
have a really fun primary. This could be great stuff.
Because and again, are they running because they're the most qualified Republicans, in Wisconsin, or who once were in Wisconsin, or could it be their checkbook?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with checkbook.
Neither of them could get out of the state fast enough when they lost their last elections. I mean, Tim Michels, after he dropped the mic, walked right onto his plane and went back home. They don't live here. They don't engage here. They don't get the people here. So whatever.
Yeah. So I like that. Whatever. That's where we're at right now. All right. We've mentioned the U.S. Supreme Court decisions. More decisions are coming out this morning. The South Carolina one seems particularly onerous to me. I mean, the court almost went out of its way to put up more barriers. I'm reminded of that commercial with the old guy with the fishing pole and the dollar, and he's holding the dollar in front of somebody, and then he's snagging back the fishing line going, oh, you almost got it, and that's the Supreme Court going, oh, you almost got your Medicaid funding, nope, Planned Parenthood, we can cut you off if we want to. It just didn't seem like, well, it didn't seem simple. Again, it seemed like they went out of their way to say, if you want to ban funding to Planned Parenthood, you can.
That's exactly what they did, but I think it has broader implications. But before we get to broader implications, let's just talk about Planned Parenthood and remind us all that Planned Parenthood does do abortions in many places, but in many places, actually in most places, and the vast majority of their business is providing health care, screening for sexually transmitted infections, birth control, preventive care, cancer screening. It is routine care that people need, and the population of people who go to Planned Parenthood for their care can't go anywhere else. So what this means is that they're not going to be able to get fundamental health care. And that means we're going to end up with more cancer, more unplanned pregnancies, more untreated sexually transmitted infections. It's just worse. It's just worse on so many counts.
And makes it so tough for things like recruitment. I mean, you've put up posts about how hard you're recruiting to get folks to come to Wisconsin and practice after residency, and none of this makes it your job any easier.
No.
She said.
Yeah. No. And, most doctors aren't like me. Most doctors, they go to the hospital, they go to their clinic, they're focused on taking care of their patients. Like, it's a big job in itself. They don't have time to do all this advocacy work. It's exhausting. And all of those barriers make it really hard for us to take care of our patients. Not that you should feel sorry for doctors, but we went into this to take care of our patients, and it just makes it even harder. Yeah. But I think that this ruling is bigger than just Planned Parenthood. We know that they're angry with Planned Parenthood and they just want to defund them because Planned Parenthood is this monolith of women's health that they hate. But this has giant implications for Medicaid in general and how Medicaid is run. And I think we have yet to see how it continues to undermine insurance for our most vulnerable folks, moms, babies, seniors, veterans, disabled people, people who otherwise can't get health insurance are going to have an even harder time getting the care that they need.
That's just what I was saying last hour, is that if they can't kill Medicaid, then they will find ways to use red tape to micromanage, the people that they approve of who can get Medicaid. So the Dobbs decision that repealed Roe v. Wade was 3 years ago this week. And while in some states the number of abortions has dropped to near zero, the total number of abortions nationwide has risen gradually. It rose again in 2024 thanks to telehealth, medication abortion. And so, Kristen, again, it was a hard decision, but providers are doing what they can to continue to provide the care that their patients need.
If the goal really is to prevent abortion care, the means of doing it is clearly not working. If you really want to prevent abortion care, then make sure people can get health care. Make sure people can get access to contraception and education. And when they get pregnant, make sure that they get the care that they need and they feel safe and secure in that care. That's how you approach it, not by banning it. Banning it just moves it underground and makes people find alternative ways to get the care that they need.
Get again, comprehensive health education, the mental health care that Governor Evers is talking about putting in schools, because again, something that is as big as, physical medical care is self-esteem, which can come through proper mental health care. It is such a multifaceted thing. It's complex. There's not some one easy, simple, political, one size fits all solution, despite what some people on one side of the spectrum think. And I'm so glad that we have advocates, like you, helping to point that out and helping patients be better advocates for themselves. Kristen Lyerly, safe travels. Have a fun weekend. And are we going to see you Monday morning?
I'll be there Monday morning, but when I leave here, I'm going to go across the street to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Wow. Well, now we have a topic for Monday morning at 6:30.
It's Springsteen weekend.
Oh, fun.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, turn that computer off. Go enjoy.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Kristen Lyerly back with us Monday morning at 6:30 here on the Civic Media Radio Network. And when we come back, Mike Clemens is going to be here. We'll talk sports, a big series for the Brewers against Colorado. The Bucks make a pick in the NBA draft. That and more coming up in just a bit. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
It's literally across the street. And it's directly across the street.
What?
There's a giant football stadium here. If they ever get a football team in Cleveland, they've got the stadium right there.
Girl, they got a football team in Cleveland.
Oh, my uncle is a Browns fan too.
I'm teasing. Sorry, Browns fans. I'm totally joking. It's beautiful, though. Cleveland is a beautiful city. I know it gets made fun of, but there is a lot going on downtown here. It's well designed, too.
A couple of weeks back, I don't remember if it was from the Rock and... No, it wasn't a Rock. It was from... it was a clip from the Drew Carey Show. And I had the Cleveland Rocks song stuck in my head for like 3 days.
Sorry.
Now it's coming back, which is fine. They're if you're going to have a song stuck in your head, you could do a lot worse than Cleveland Rocks, So great. All right. Have fun.
Okay.
It's
Have
great.
a good weekend.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
And now we get to play Where is Dom?
Oh, I'm sure he's just coming in a second here. Because I suppose he probably does have to wait for Mike for like a couple minutes to get off. There you go.
Boom. How are we doing there, guys?
Pretty good.
All right. And it sounds like Mike might be on the line too.
Yep, he's on there.
Stand by.
All right, sounds good. Just under 3 minutes. See you soon.
Okay.
I'm going to tuck you in the waiting room here. I'll be back in 2.5 minutes. Here's a little behind the scenes at the radio station here. When we have guests come in and they join us through an online portal, we have, of course, the virtual studio here that they appear with us inside of that. But we can also have them off the air, so they're here on the website, but they're in something that we call the waiting room. And so guests will check in and we'll say, okay, I'm going to tuck you into the waiting room for the rest of the commercial break. And Alicia puts on YouTube, the waiting room sounds so cozy when you say you'll tuck people into it. Thank you, Alicia. Yes, we have we sometimes refer to the secret show online when we're just yapping with each other during commercial breaks, because folks on Facebook and YouTube can still hear us, and hopefully our bosses can't. Maybe instead of the secret show, we call it the waiting room. We'll just tuck people into it.
Yeah.
So
let a soundbite for that.
Yeah. So let me open up the door to the waiting room and pull Mike Clemens out of there and have him join us to talk a little sports for the weekend here. Mike, hello. How are you? See? It's so cozy.
You guys have got the heated blankets. I had my little hot fudge sundae that you served.
Oh, see?
Fantastic, man.
That concierge service in the waiting room is just top notch. That's awesome. How are you today?
A little tired. It was a late night last night covering your NBA draft round 2 and the Bucks with the 47th pick, but they have taken a kid who's 6'11" out of Serbia. He's the hottest young prospect out of the professional basketball league in Serbia, and his name is Bogoljub Markovic. You'll hear this kid's name like Giannis. They'll call him Bogo. Bogoljub Markovic.
All right.
6'11", 217 for weight, and so we talked to the Bucks after the pick last night, after the draft, and they said, yeah, he's going to have to put some weight on. Giannis, I looked this up. When he came in, he weighed 196. Remember how tall and skinny he was?
Oh yeah.
How broad shoulder he is. Giannis weighs 245 now. He's put on almost 50 pounds of muscle in 11 years in the NBA. But this kid they picked up last night, I guess what stands out is here's a big who 6'11", a very accurate shooter, only 19 and playing with the big boys with the adult league, so a team called Mega Basket in Serbia's ABA league. And he averaged, at 19, he's averaging 14 points a night, six or seven rebounds, a couple of assists, 28 minutes per game. So they've had their eye on him. Now, is he going to be like these Bucks draft picks the last 2 or 3 years where, we get him and they put him on the shelf, right? They stash him, as they call it in the NBA, as a development, or maybe even use him in a trade later on. Or is he going to be on the roster? The Bucks wouldn't say. They just said, that's up to Doc. But we think, we see a future with him alongside Giannis out there as a small forward.
Well, since we're mentioning Giannis, and first off, you said he put on about 45, 50 pounds. You said of muscle. I knew I was doing something wrong all these years. I put the weight on. Yeah. Nobody was specific about it. Now I know how Giannis got it done. But anyway.
Too much time in the waiting room, not the weight room. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly it. I hate doing this, but I got to. Okay, so we picked up this kid from Serbia, and he may or may not, be on the roster right away. Does this do anything in terms of all the trade rumors about Giannis? It just seems I never see it rooted in anything, but it just doesn't shut some people up nationally from talking about it.
I think, a month ago, I would have been saying to you, all right, now you're going to hear, ESPN and some of these other networks start this, fueling this Giannis. Does he want out of Milwaukee and all that? But I think there's some fire causing this smoke this time, and it's got to be the agents, and it's got to be, don't forget you're in a league that's run by billionaires.
Yeah.
And guys that have got teams that are struggling, and they look at the marketing surveys, and guess who is number one? There was just a report out earlier this week. Number one, most popular with teens, younger kids, in the early 20s, is Giannis Antetokounmpo up in Milwaukee, not some guy in LA or out in New York or something like that. And so there's some of these teams that are struggling and only get 8,000 fans a night that know that they could sell tickets if they got that guy. And they're telling their GMs, I don't care what it takes. I don't care what Milwaukee. Everyone's got a price. I want you to get them. And so when the calls start going around, and there's all this talk about, well, what would it take? What is the values? That's what stirs the bee's nest, the beehive, and people buzzing that, there's all this talk, what would it take? And at the same time, I've got a real good source that was with a member of the Bucks organization, we'll say, who said, I just ran into him. I just took Giannis and the family to the airport. They're going to Greece for a family trip. And in the car, he's just like, can you believe all this crap? Where's this? Like Giannis is just, if you talk to him, if you have a brush with him, he totally denies it. But they started that again last night on ESPN saying, well, we're seeing that Giannis is monitoring the draft and everything the Bucks do in free agency in the next couple of weeks before he makes his decision on maybe where he should be next season or in the coming years, blah, blah, blah. So I think there's a mix of all those kinds of things that there's part of it in the stew. Now, we tried to, I thought we would be talking to John Horst about all this last night. And as a matter of fact, on Monday, there hadn't been anything from the Bucks. So I sent them a letter, and I got back a response about 20 minutes later saying, we're working on it, we'll let you know. And then the email to those of us that cover the team on a regular basis says, okay, here's our plan. Round one of the draft is Wednesday night. We're not going to do anything. Normally, on draft night, it's almost like a draft party. They invite you down, they have some dinner, some snacks,
Sure.
and we sit down, and you bring your laptop, and you work for about 10, 11 hours there, right? You bring all your equipment and file stories. And they say, we're not going to, which, like Monday afternoon, they tipped us off. Yeah, they don't anticipate anything happening for them in the first round, like a mega trade or anything. Come Thursday night for the second round, and we'll open the doors at 6, and then we monitor the draft, and then we'll bring in GM John Horst down to talk about what we did with the second round. So we thought, okay, we'll ask him some draft questions about the pick, and we can ask him some Giannis questions, right? Because we haven't talked to him since the season was over with. I drive to the Deer District to get into Fiserv Forum, and I'm checking my messages in my phone because I know my phone went off a couple times, and I'm in heavy traffic downtown Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
And I check it in the parking structure, and it says, tonight's event's been canceled. They canceled it like 30 minutes before they were going to open the doors.
Whoa.
We're not going to make John Horst available tonight. We're going to do a Zoom call with Assistant General Manager Milton Newton, and that'll be after the second round is over with. So go back to your newsrooms, go back to your offices, whatever. We're just going to do a Zoom tonight. Okay, so turn around. I drive back 45 minutes to my house. And, Milt came on, and he was very good and talking about, Bogo and this kid they picked up from Serbia. And then during the coverage, one of the reporters was monitoring what they're saying on ESPN, like, oh, Giannis is watching this very closely. So they asked him for comment on that. And he says, I'm not here to talk about Giannis. I'm just here to talk about the draft pick. And here's what's probably going on. Here's what the next chapter is. Okay, so they got through maybe they try to trade out, maybe they try to get trade up, whatever. But next will be they signed a kid with a two-way deal out of Alabama, Mark Sears. So he'll be part of both their roster and their G League team. They save money on that. But free agency is coming up, and Horst has got 2 or 3 other moves coming probably in the next week or two. So he just, he wasn't going to talk to us. But to find out 30 minutes before they were going to open the doors and have an event to cover like that was pretty unusual last night.
It sure sounds, and it does not, the beehive just continues to buzz all the more,
And that just adds to it, doesn't it?
It does. All right. Well, I guess we just have to continue to monitor and hope for some honey and not for getting stung. Let's turn over to baseball. Before we get to the Brewers, though, I think that this is a story that we're going to share next as a reminder. No matter how much you love your team, no matter how much you hate the other team, there's still some rules of the road out there. And there's now a 22-year-old White Sox fan who is banned at all major league ballparks for hopefully a good long time. It's a terrible story, but again, a cautionary tale, Mike, if you wouldn't mind sharing it.
Yeah, the other night at White Sox Park on the south side of Chicago, they're hosting the Arizona Diamondbacks. and Ketel Marte's, in the batter circle there. He's getting warmed up. And this 22-year-old clown, wearing a White Sox garb, starts yelling at him crude things about his mother. And Marte starts to cry. And Torey Lovello, the manager, sees this from the dugout, comes out to run it to check on what's the matter with his player. And he hears this crap coming from the stands. And he turns to this fan and to the ushers and says, do you know, and he's swearing at him, but basically saying, do you know his mother has died? His mother's dead. Knock it off. And he's talking to us like, get rid of this guy. Because it was like back in 2017, Marte, young ball player, was on the phone to his mom, I think Dominican Republican, but like 30 minutes after they hung up, she was in a fatal car accident and died. And so for this guy to be, mocking this guy's mom, it hit him the wrong way. And, he ended up going 0 for 4 that night and breaking down like that. It was, but just a real ugly, stupid situation. There was one this spring in Cleveland where the Red Sox were playing there. And the Red Sox have got a player named Jaron Duran who had done a documentary about the pressures of being a ball player. Talked about at one point he was so much pressure he contemplated suicide. So this Cleveland fan starts hitting him up with that, yelling from the stands. He's been banned. People have asked me, what's the worst thing you ever saw? And it's definite. The Packers had just beat the Bears again. We're down at Soldier Field, and we're going into the visitors' tunnel, and I'm following the team, for the post-game interviews, get going there. And Favre had just beat the Bears once again, and he's going into the tunnel, and there's a Bears fan, a woman, in a parka holding up a sign, a little yellow sign that said, "Die, Favre, die."
Oh, come on. Jeepers.
And this was a week, Pat, after Reggie had died.
Yeah.
After Reggie White had died in Christmas. Remember that week?
Yes.
Can that be the most insensitive, stupid thing? Packers had beat the Bears like 31-17 that day, and, they wanted Favre to move on. But it's like, it can be pretty brutal sometimes down on the field.
And you know what? They're paid a lot of money, and they can take a lot of of ribbing or jeering or whatever if it's about the game. When you cross that line into something personal, I mean, you're just showing your colors, and they're not nice.
100%. And you know what? And if you're a fan, you see this stuff, call fan assistance.
Yeah.
That they've got a telephone number for it. Get that person ejected out of the game.
That clown. Yeah, absolutely. The Brewers, they open up a home series tonight against the Colorado Rockies. The coverage of tonight's pregame starts at 6:35 on several civic media stations. Are you looking forward to anything in particular for this one?
Yeah, just to see if they can keep the momentum going. They're 3 games behind the Cubs. Cubs are beating the Cardinals in shutouts so far, but the Brewers in second place. They played the Pirates. The Mizorowski lived up to the billing, 5 scoreless innings. He's off to the best start of a major league pitcher since 1901, I guess.
Yes.
Just been keeping the records.
Wow.
And Julio Ortiz had a pretty good game the other night, because he was a great second baseman last year. They moved him to shortstop after Willie Adames left to the Giants in free agency, but he's really struggled at the plate. Like the batting average is down to something like 185. He's gotten it up to 217. He's the other night he got 2 home runs in the same game. So after the game, we went to Pat Murphy and said, "Hey, listen, Joey's done his job in the field on
10 seconds. What do you call him?"
Yeah. He said he was lower than whale poop. That's the heaviest thing in the ocean. He was heavier than whale poop.
Mike Clemens, thank you. We'll talk in a couple of weeks after the 4th of July. We'll be back.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Whale poop, huh?
Whale poop. Yep.
All right.
I don't think he said poop.
Oh, Murph?
Murph? What?
No.
Oh, gosh. All right. Let's see.
Thank you, Dom.
Thank you, Dom. Oh, wait a minute. That might be the actual quote. Let's see here.
Actually, it might have been at a press conference, so maybe it was.
Yeah, Pat Murphy said Offensively, he was lower than whale poop. For him to fight out of that and have the ability and mental toughness to play defense still, you've just got to commend the guy. So, okay.
God, Murphy's funny.
So we'll start with that. Oh, let's see. And then I got the keyword one more time. Okay.
Park. If you're listening on the live stream and you're thinking about entering,
yeah,
type Park.
Not Parker.
Not Parker. No.
Mm-hmm.
Not Miller Park.
No, just Park.
Just Park.
One final time. Here's our keyword for our free Ticket Friday. You've got about 6 minutes or so to text the word PARK, P-A-R-K, through the Civic Media app. If you would like to go to the Brewers-Rockies game Sunday afternoon, we're giving away 4 tickets, a statewide contest to 1 lucky entrant. There'll be other chances to win throughout the course of the day here, so be listening to Matt and Air on air, and then moving on throughout the course of this Friday on the Civic Media Radio Network. Again, next few minutes or so, text PARK, not Parker. That'll disqualify, not Miller Park or anything like that, just PARK. P-A-R-K gets it done. We ran out of time right into the break there with Mike Clemens, so I wanted to just double check that quote that he was talking about. Yes, indeed, it was for Joey Ortiz. He had his 5th multi-hit game in his last 6, so his average is up to 217 now, a little more than a month after it had dropped below the Mendoza line to 170. And I had to double check the language on this, and sure enough, Pat Murphy said in the postgame, offensively, Joey Ortiz, he was lower than whale poop. For him to fight out of that and have the ability and mental toughness to play defense still, you just got to commend the guy. I couldn't be happier. Knowing Murph, thought for sure he was using another word. He did not. He knows when the microphones are live. Give him credit for that.
Oh, yeah.
Love
He's
that
a
guy.
very quotable guy.
Yes, he is. So he's got the series with the Rockies coming up. Hey, at Summerfest this weekend, if you're heading down that way tonight on the lineup, some of the shows include Cake will be there, short skirt, long jacket. Let's see, we've got Offset, Jody Messina. Boy, I know I recognize 1 or 2 others, and don't make fun of me just because I say that doesn't mean it was like Lawrence Welk or something like that. But Plain White Tees will be there as well. And then I wanted to call up the Saturday lineup real quick for folks that might just want to spur the moment, go, hey, let's go. Megan Thee Stallion is appearing tomorrow. There's also the Mavericks, the Fray, The Fray. We saw the Fray at Summerfest. Oh my gosh, how many years ago? Like 25, something like that. Whenever the first season of Grey's Anatomy was, because first or second season, because their song "How to Save a Life," wasn't that? Yes, that was them. They were appearing as this hot new band at the time, and they're back, which tells you how popular Summerfest is. It's a great little gig. There are other fairs and festivals going on this weekend as well. Of course, the Marquette County Fair in Westfield, the Outagamie County Fair in Seymour, and the Door County North Pollinator Week celebration up in Ellison Bay. Parade tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Oh, by the way, back to Summerfest, you can head over to our website, upnorthnewswi.com. And it says there, skip Summerfest traffic. Here's how to get to the festival without driving. I would highly recommend that. A lot of good transportation options to get there or to whatever particular festival you are heading to this weekend. Hope that it's a lot of fun. We talked with Mike Clemens in our last segment about some of the ugly language that people can use in sports venues. It is not restricted to sports. We spoke earlier with Keya Vakil from Courier Newsroom about the New York City mayor's race and the surprise win this week by Democratic Socialist candidate Zohran Mamdani. And the headline in the New York Times here says, right-wing Republicans in Congress attack Mamdani with Islamophobic comments. The responses to Mamdani's win were the latest examples of how some GOP lawmakers have grown more overt in using bigoted language and tropes. So, I mean, tip your cap to the New York Times, because I'm one who has often said, stop tiptoeing around these things. If something is racist, call it racist. If it's Islamophobic, if it's bigoted, call it that. And the New York Times is finally doing it. And you understand why when you see something like this. Is a member of Congress, Andy Ogles, a far-right Tennessee Republican, used Islamophobic language on social media to refer to Zohran Mamdani in a way that said he should be deported. He's not deportable. He's an American citizen. Congresswoman Nancy Mace, Republican of South Carolina, and personal opinion, lowlife, implied that Mr. Mamdani was somehow tied to the 9/11 terrorist attacks. He was 9 years old when that happened. That came after Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia reacted to Mamdani's apparent victory with an edited image of the Statue of Liberty clothed in a burqa. The New York Times just goes on to say these were just the latest examples of how far-right Republicans in Congress have become overt in their use of bigoted language and ethnically offensive tropes in both casual comments and official statements. Don't normalize this, people. And I can only say this to any Republicans or conservatives who are listening. If you don't call out crap like that, it's no different than you using that term. We all have a duty, as I would with fellow progressives, that if they cross some kind of a line that's out there, because we don't need to escalate it to that point. But it is going to happen. I mean, on Capitol Hill yesterday, Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett questioned First Lady Melania Trump's reported use of the so-called Einstein visa during a House hearing, and saying, essentially inferring that there is something deportable about the way that she was able to come into the country. In all cases, we do well to remember that American citizens and immigrants come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. All are human. All are worthy until proven otherwise. And at this level of name calling, this level of Islamophobia and bigotry, there's no room for it. There's just no room for it. There's just no room for it. Next week, Jeff Mandel from Law Forward, Hans Breitenmoser, Representative Angela Stroud. My thanks to today's guests, Jennifer Schulze, Jim Santelle, Mark Jacob, Keya Vakil, Kristen Lyerly, Mike Clemens, and you for being here today. I'm Pat Kreitlow. We'll see you back here up north Monday morning, 6 a.m. Have a great weekend. And Alicia, you're right. They have been left off the hook for so long that now they feel comfortable being overtly horrible. And you're right. Yay, the New York Times is calling it out now, but they sure as hell should have a lot more. So let's see. And there's this. Yeah, we'll go. Not everything in the comment section is helpful. I'm glad Alicia is. Thank you. All right, everybody, have a great weekend.